Hello, good morning, and welcome to the AM News here on the AM Show. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. It was expected to stabilize the labor front and initiate conversations that will favorably consider the demands of labor, but it appears the parties were far from reaching any compromise at that crunch meeting Tuesday. 4 unions, Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, Ghana National Association of Teachers, National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers stormed out of the meeting following a directive to call off their strike. The pre-tertiary unions are on strike in demand of a 20% payment of cost of living allowance. Other unions have joined the chorus demanding same. My colleague Michael Papani Ashali monitored the meeting and now reports.
The second meeting to discuss their demand for COLA ended without any offer being made by government. Unlike the first meeting, the Minister for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, was present. Government refused to start negotiations while some unions were still on strike. The teacher unions stormed out of the meeting, refusing to call off their industrial action.
Meaning what?
Yes. They do not want to welcome us to this meeting. We cannot begrudge them. So that is why we are walking out.
When you say they don't want to welcome you, but you were in there and they walked in and...
Yes, we received invitation under organized labor, and we are part of organized labor.
They are indicating and asking us to call off our strike before negotiations begin.
Exactly.
So what it means is that the government side is not ready to continue negotiations unless the teacher unions call off strike. They've held all organized labor hostage. And this is a betrayal of trust, because the understanding we had is that organized labor has been convened for us to find solution to the issue of COLA. Right now, since we are undesirable, we think that before they even walk us out of the meeting, we are walking out of the meeting ourselves. Thank you very much. Yes.
President of CLOCSAC, Dr. Bampo Addo, left the meeting before it ended. Deputy Employment Minister Bright Reku Brobe says government will only meet the labor unions when the strike is called off.
We have had to call off the meeting. We have had to adjourn, because both parties, labor and government, think that we can't do this whilst a party is on strike. So the agreement is that we are going to talk to each other. They call off the strike and we come again to meet.
What would you now be telling them?
They should exercise patience like they have done. Hopefully, as they call off the strike, we will engage, and then everything will be settled. Thank you.
So how soon are you expecting them to come back to the negotiation table?
Very soon we will have that.
All right, but Deputy Secretary General of the TUC, Joshua Ansan, hopes the next meeting will be fruitful while supporting the stance of the teachers.
I'm not disappointed at all.
Why are you not disappointed?
I know that is the way it is going to travel, so I'm not disappointed at all. No, you weren't in the room.
Yeah.
Nothing was put on the table. And we want the betterment of our people and want very good things for our people. So any meeting that couldn't end today, we are sure that at the next meeting, maybe something good will come out of that. No, I'm not disappointed at all, because you see, today's meeting was for organized labor. It wasn't for teacher unions meeting. It was organized labor, and organized labor include all the teacher unions and all other sector unions. So if you say that you want to deal with teacher unions in this matter, a matter that affects all workers in this very country, I don't think it's fair. So I'm not disappointed that they went away. For now, I think that they have declared their strike, and they are still on strike. And I think that if I were them, if I was in their shoes, definitely that's the same thing that I would do.
Meanwhile, some other unions present were happy with the progress of the negotiations. Here is Vice President of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Justice Yankson.
Best is that we are still going to meet again, and that is the most important thing. So as and when the next meeting is called, we will all continue.
The Deputy Minister tells me that you all agreed to adjourn today's meeting.
That's why I'm saying that we've agreed to adjourn and we will continue. So as and when it's called, we all will go for the meeting.
The meeting between government reps and that of labor unions to discuss the cost of living allowance has again ended in a stalemate. Government is hoping to call another meeting as soon as possible to probably start negotiations and finalize them. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Meanwhile, some members of parliament have described as justified calls from organized labor for government to pay the cost of living allowance. The 20% of base pay allowance, according to labor unions, is to cushion workers on the prevailing economic challenges and the high cost of living. Listen to some MPs who say the demand is genuine, but labor should meet government halfway.
I think absolutely justified. What is the current rate of inflation? You remember last year when they were giving 3% and they were promised 4% today. Inflation at that time was 12, less than even about 12%. Today, inflation is almost 30% inflation. So look at the gallop. So it has rendered their wages and salaries useless and cannot even take their take-home pay, cannot even take them home. The issue that you are raising is government in position to pay, given the state of the economy. Who has run the state of the economy to where it is today? That's the first question we ask. Is it not the same government? So who should bear responsibility for that?
The demands by the labor front is an evidence of the continuous hardship that we find ourselves in. You have rising costs of living, and yet, it doesn't correspond with payments to labor. And unfortunately, government has not been able to show leadership in that regard. I think that if government really want to show leadership, government can come up with programs that lead to either a cut down in government expenditure, cut down in either salaries and allowances, and so on and so forth, as a good fit, to encourage the labor front that we are going through this hardship together.
Yeah. And the situation as it is now is because the government has not come to the table with anything in hand. If your workers are on strike, they are making demands, at least you should go and tell them, oh, this is what I can offer. So once no offers are made, it will be difficult for the teacher unions to call off the strike.
I will also beg the labor front to temper justice with mercy, but that does not mean that government should not do anything for them. I think some 15%, 10%, 15% for now, they could do.
Still in Parliament, the minority is accusing the Electoral Commission of seeking to destabilize the country with its plans to create a new voters register with the Ghana card, according to the minority leader Haruna Idrisu, who spoke to journalists in a hurriedly organized press conference in Parliament. The EC is also seeking to prevent citizens who do not have the Ghana card from using other persons as guarantors. According to Haruna Idrisu, the plan of the EC would disenfranchise some Ghanaians who have had the opportunity to register for the Ghana card through no fault of theirs.
That may threaten the stability of our country, since it borders on the right of a Ghanaian citizen to vote and to exercise that inalienable right to vote. Our understanding as we pick it up is that the Electoral Commission of Ghana is desperately planning to discard the 2020 voter register and replace it with a new voter register, which register is cost the taxpayer and the people of Ghana to build with $80 million thereabout. So in 2020, the Electoral Commission, against all sound and technical advice, replaced the 2016 biometric voter register. You all recall that. This decision of the Commission was without consensus by all political parties, civil society, and critical election stakeholders. In pursuit of that political agenda, the EC undertook a new voter registration exercise, which currently puts the voter population of our country at 17,041,340 voters. Our understanding is that the Electoral Commission is seeking to make the national ID card the only source of justification to register onto the voter ID card as their basis, the voter register. Our concern primarily is that in the past, since 1993, voter registration exercises that have been undertaken you normally have the provision of a guarantor of other persons guaranteeing for persons to get onto the voter register insofar as it is established that they are Ghanaian and are of age and of sound mind and to participate in Ghana's electoral process to vote and be voted for.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu is also accusing the EC of engaging in an illegality when it failed to hold limited registration exercise in 2021 and that of this year.
The Electoral Commission, by law and by duty, ought to have conducted limited voter registration exercise in 2021 and 2022. They failed to undertake this national exercise. And therefore, eligible Ghanaians who have attained age 18 and above have been denied, so to speak, the opportunity to get registered and to exercise their right to vote as Ghanaian citizens. This activity never took place in 2021. And as I indicated in one of my press conferences, when President Mahama becomes president, we intend to deploy a new technology that allows you that when you are just 18 years, you walk to any office of the Electoral Commission and get registered. That is what we will do as a government to improve access to it. So we've invited you this morning to draw attention to this concern, that one, the use of the National Identification Card as the sole reference justification is technically unacceptable since many Ghanaians do not have their national ID card and some have not even been given the opportunity to have a national ID card, and that the data on the national ID card is far less the data on our national voter register as compiled by the Electoral Commission of Ghana in 2020.
Now, the Ghana Great Company Limited, GRIDCo, embarked on a demolition on Tuesday morning, leaving many residents displaced. In this respect, my colleague Samuel Kujobres was at the place last night and files this update.
Anyway, so she is saying that yes, they believe that they will be able to complete this temporary shelter for the family so that tomorrow morning they would see where else life will lead them. But she again tells me that since morning when this demolition exercise happened, they and the kids have not eaten. It's difficult, but we are still here. I'm told this place is the bridge area in Bauleshi. Let's try and run you through how the whole place is. So you see debris all around from the structures that were pulled down this morning. Here, if you're seeing on your screens now, wood, you can find mattresses, plywood, boxes, iron sheets, some of them not too many, but you see a lot of plywood, a lot of wood here. I see one woman who has set up like a spot, so there are drinks, and then I think this is an Indomie joint, huh? So she has some drinks here, as well as things to prepare Indomie for the people who are here. This is it. Mommy, I had to say. What's now Bosmo saying? And I'm saying.
Pacho 2 years me. Pacho last year Sunday umbebubu ye tena asa because ni baby ako. Ti ye tena asa. Ene so o ma se abebubu ye. Ni e da so tim.
Entino mo be sa atena mu sa sisi mo dan no.
Debi. Ye ni baby ako ena ye ni scan so. Yen pan kitin na ye dina and ye di boba and one ye ma. See any baby aqua.
So
Papa, you never be aqua. Papa, you never be aqua. One of the
Well, so that was my colleague Samuel Kojo bringing you updates following the demolition Tuesday morning. Now, lawyers for family of the late Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Osu Efriye, aka Sir John, are accusing the special prosecutor of engaging in a witch hunt. This is their reaction to a High Court ruling that dismissed a request by the special prosecutor, Kisia Jaben, to extend his power to freeze assets of Sir John. The family say the SP, Kisia Jaben, is undertaking his probe purely based on suspicion. In May this year, it emerged that the will of Sir John contained some parcels of land at the Achimoto Forest Reserve and the Sakumona Ramsar site. It also contained 4 parcels of land in the Achimoto Forest, which the late politician gifted to some individuals. Mr. Jaben has since commenced investigations into the matter, but the High Court says it cannot maintain the freezing order. Joseph Akakpo now reports.
Following public uproar regarding the will of Sir John, the special prosecutor in a press statement indicated it had commenced investigations into the matter. He subsequently issued orders freezing accounts and assets of the late CEO of the Forestry Commission. Section 38 of the Office of Special Prosecutor Act 959, empowers the SP to direct the freezing of assets if he holds the view that it is necessary for investigation. To apply to a court within 4 freezing order. What led the SP to file the current processes. The High Court, however, took the view that the special prosecutor should have initiated the process under Section 54 of the Act. This portion of the Act is titled, quote, Procedure against property where a person dies or absconds. It enables the special prosecutor to apply to the court for a confiscation order in respect of tainted property if the person from whom the property was seized is on trial for corruption or corruption-related offense, or is convicted of corruption or corruption-related offense but dies or absconds. The court, in dismissing the request, pointed out that this procedure should have been used by Mr. Jaben's office. The special prosecutor, however, disagrees and has served notice of challenging this position at the Court of Appeal. Lawyer for family of Sir John, Nana Obribwan, disagrees. He accuses the special prosecutor of engaging in a political witch hunt.
In fact, in law, the evidential burden of proof from the here. Next statement establishing a case beyond preponderance of probability. Ode nipa no hwekwana fasunya sikana na japade na oye no na katia ntimisa. In that application, he never demonstrates nipa no jakatia say. Sazumi says nipa no 1 million Ghana cedis a month. 1 million Ghana cedis a month, which is 10 billion. So do the calculation and see. So it is going to serve as a bad and a dangerous precedent if this application has been granted. Because you see, it's going to open the floodgate. China at the chair, Sabi, Bikone Krechipa, but Wamfaka Papa Sunya Onya Japadiano. Intino, Munko, Adecha, better way, Adecha, the law does not thrive on multiple of suspicion. The law, it doesn't thrive on multiplicity of suspicions. There must be empirical evidence to support or to buttress the claim. But this, what the special prosecutor was doing, with due respect, was like a witch hunting.
For now, there is no freezing order against the assets of Sir John. The special prosecutor is meanwhile expected to file an appeal.
Organizers of civil advocacy group Arise Ghana have disclosed that one of the protesters in the June 28th demonstration, Krom Ayeshe, has been confirmed blind in one eye. Protesters rallied in the Arise Ghana demo against economic hardship in the country. Joy News' Tasha Michelle was at a news conference at the International Press Center and filed this report.
One of the two-day demonstration turned violent, with the police firing tear gas and protesters pelting the police. The standoff was created due to a disagreement in the route for the march. Many sustained injuries, including 15 police officers, according to the police's statement. Addressing a press conference on Tuesday, leader of the group, Bernard Mona, revealed that one of the victims, Ni Ayi, will no longer be able to see in his right eye, per the doctor's report.
As a result of the unprofessional and lawless conduct of the Dampari-led police, many innocent Ghanaians were injured. From information received so far, 93 peaceful protesters sustained varying forms of injuries, ranging from fractures to rubber bullets, wounds, among others. The leadership of Arise Ghana has since visited some of the victims and has borne the cost of their treatment. Ladies and gentlemen, what is most painful is the case of Comrade Ni Ayi Mensah, one of the victims of the reckless police brutalities of the 28th June 2022, who was hit by a rubber bullet in his right eye and has been declared blind in that eye by doctors at the eye center of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Mr. Mona reiterated the group's reservation with the conduct of the police during the two-day protest. He, however, stressed that in spite of the unfortunate developments, Arise Ghana will continue to mount pressure on government to address the hardship in the country.
It is unconscionable that one of the agents provocateurs who threw the first stone at his colleagues in uniform and was arrested by us, the protesters, and handed over to the Ghana Police Service has been left off the hook, while these rather innocent, peaceful protesters are being persecuted for no wrong done. In fact, video footages have shown that even before the first stone was thrown at the police, they had already fired several tear gas canisters. So we are more than convinced that the violence was orchestrated and rehearsed by the Ghana Police Service, acting on and on behalf of the intolerant Akufo-Addo government.
Meanwhile, the group maintains that it will continue to impress upon the government to address the pertinent issues affecting the country. In that regard, the group announced its plans for future demonstration.
In keeping with our mandate and objective, Arise Ghana will be staging a second of its intended nationwide demonstrations on the 22nd of August 2022 in Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital. This second demonstration, just like the maiden one in Accra, has been necessitated by the excruciating hardships confronting the average Ghanaian citizen, occasioned by the imposition of draconian taxes, high cost of petroleum products, skyrocketing inflation, the free fall of the national currency, the cedi, high level of unemployment amongst the youth.
Tasha Michel's report for Joy News.
That's all for the news. Thanks for your company. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Now I leave you in the hands of Benjamin Akakpo and Benis Abubedu-Lansa. Don't go anywhere.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. Without mincing words, let's say a very good morning to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Always good to have you here. Doc, good morning. You may have to unmute.
Yes. Good morning, Ben. Are you okay?
Yes, it's better now. I can hear you loud and clear. So we'll be delving into the papers shortly, but there are quite a number of matters, some of which the papers pick up, but others of relevance that we'll be looking at. So we'll start with the Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana, not University of Ghana, Universities of Ghana, and the stalemate from yesterday's engagement between teachers, that is labor, and government. Walkouts, requests for inner conversation or further conversation and all of that. I know you followed all of it, but what is the situation now, especially because at the end of the day, then we see the Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana also stepping in to declare a strike. What is going on? I mean, on your front, because you're a lecturer as well.
If you look at the situation, we are really in a mess. I must be blunt on this.
Right.
It appears to me that the government is bereft of ideas with regard to how to handle these things. And that's why you are getting one strike following another one. Right? There must be a strategy, a labor strategy or industrial relations strategy on the part of government to deal with this. You don't sit down for these things to take you by surprise. So the state we find ourselves is not a good one. Over the years, you realize that labor agitations has been fought in an ad hoc manner. Why am I saying that? Anytime people go hit the street expressing their concern about their working conditions, you see the Labor Commission armed with the power of the law to rush to the courts, declare their actions as illegal and whatnot. Instead of delving into the issues, they scratch the surface of the issues, and at the end of the day, when they resort to what? Advocacy on the part of eminent people to deal with this thing when matters get worse and all that. That is not the way to handle issues permanently. So all these things have bottled up for years, and that is why we are seeing some of this. I am worried because, you see, as a student of politics, I look at what happened in 1970s where there were a lot of labor agitations. I pray that we don't get there because that one always affects the quality of governance, and I'm not praying for that at all. So it is my humble opinion that those who matter in this issue will sit down with the agitators or the labor, the workers, and then discuss these things and find common ground so that they can address this thing. And then we stop, setting pusher. We stop all manner of promises and all that. Let us come to the table, discuss them, and proper solution that would deal with this issue head on.
But Doc, sitting at the table, discussing them, you've done this time without number. It's not leading to anything. And now you're saying, for example, that those in authority are bereft of ideas. They really don't know what to do. In fact, they shouldn't have waited for this to happen. So sitting at the table, is it going to resolve the matter?
By all means, you need dialogue to deal with this.
Dialogue is failing. Dialogue failed yesterday. The teachers went there at a point they had to request to move out. Government officials left, didn't come back for over an hour and all of that. It doesn't appear dialogue is working.
Yes, you still have to go to dialogue. Why am I saying that? Because maybe there is an unfinished business. There's something that government might have promised them and did not deliver. This is the time to touch on it and then show commitment that you are ready for business. Then people can sit down and talk to you. But if you want to, throw it away or discount it, I'm afraid you are going to have a lot of them coming up. And that is what we don't wish for ourselves. Because if you look at our economic situation now, and even the whole country, we are hot in terms of our economic needs and what have you. So we cannot compound the situation with this labor unrest and all that. So those who manage these affairs must really do the hard thinking to arrive at something that will really inure to the benefit of everybody. Otherwise, look, we'll be in very difficult situation that nobody want to wish that for the country. Yeah. And
speaking of difficult situations, apart from that front, there's more of a mess going, down the strata when we talk about senior high education. But so we know that strike, that industrial action of the university teachers, the University Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana, commences today. There's also the bit about feeding for those at the senior high school level. It's interesting, just was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I was going by, the Togo Embassy area, that roundabout. Yeah. That's where the buffer stock has its office, at least one of them. And I was just contemplating some of the things we've seen in recent times, schools, senior high schools complaining in the Upper West region and different parts of the Northern Belt, down south as well. Students don't have food. Some of them are sitting exams and all of that. Even yesterday we had cause to, interact with more students. I have had blunt interactions with some people. The Deputy General Secretary of the Public Services Workers Union, PSWU, Mr. Sampa, for example, told me the other day, look, we're in dire straits as a country. We have a number of flagship programs. If we feel some of them are draining us, especially as we're going to the IMF, change course on some of them. Don't scrap something like free SHS. Don't scrap it. I admit it's a good thing. I'm sure you admit same. But
I do.
Can some people pay? You know, it's not everybody who needs it for free. Can we restructure some of these things so that not all of the burden is on government? What is your take? Because this is becoming problematic.
Yes. You see, any policy, when you go through, at the end of the day, you do evaluation and see whether you have to continue or not. That is public policy, because anything called public policy, it means state is funding. And where the state is not ensuring value for money, then you have to take a different route. So I am surprised that up to date, we still want to continue with the old order, which is creating problems for us. There are a number of flashy programs that people think that they have outlived their usefulness. You take them off. I listened to the former chairman of Finance Committee of Parliament saying that, look, planting for food and jobs, what has it brought and all that. If these things are anything to go by, then you have to take a second look, evaluate them, and then if there is a need to cancel them, you cancel them, then you save some money and address other challenges. Otherwise, you'll be inundated with cases and problems that you cannot handle. But that is not governance is all about. Governance is about making use of the resources available to you and make life better for people. So if you cannot, then your capacity is weak in terms of what? Administration. That is my difficulty.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. And who wins NPP chairmanship contest? 3 emerge frontrunners. Pictured here, Stephen Ayesu and Tim. He's a familiar face, 5-time contestant. There's also Stephen Amwa Boateng Asabi, if you like, first-time contestant. And then George Kwabena Abankwai Yeboah, first-time contestant. Now, all of them are going for the chairmanship slot. 6,730 delegates are to decide their fate. Yesterday, we saw a statement, a release, if you like, from the camp of Stephen Ayesu and team, talking about his communications team, those that the media can reach out to, and all of that. But these are the 3 stalwarts of the New Patriotic Party who are expected to be the front runners. Now, you can see that statement on your screen. Stephen and team appointing spokespersons, Kamaldeen Abdullahi, Honorable George Anda, interesting one there, Joyce Zempare and Kofi Ameyao, who are going to be speaking on his behalf and handling his affairs in terms of campaigning ahead of Saturday. Your quick thoughts. So I want your general reflection. First of all, on Stephen and team, who is perennial when it comes to this race. This is his 5th contest. He's had hard luck a number of times. This time, the person who would have been front runner, so the current chairman of the party, Freddie Wasimeu Blay, is stepping down. Aikwe has also decided to not be in the race. Now, these are the stalwarts. Is it time for Stephen and team? And do you think he can carry the party to break the 8?
The first hurdle you need to cross is to gain the mandate of the people to lead the party as a chairman. And that is the difficult task he's facing. Because over the years, there's no doubt, he's a very astute politician. He has served his party well, and he flows with the rank and file of the party. There's no doubt about that. He's a man of ideas and all that. But unfortunately, we have seen that he has not been able to cross the Rubicon. This time around, what is he bringing that's on board that will really change the narrative? I believe that in context of this nature, you need somebody who is strategic, you need somebody who has resources, and you need somebody who also has the message. This is the way we have to gauge the personalities who are contesting. I believe Steve has done a lot in terms of message delivery. They resonate with the people who are going to vote. For strategy, he's a man of strategy. I have no doubt in my mind that he can take advantage of what are under his sleeves and then, implement to his satisfaction. In terms of resources, I can't speak much because I don't know the resources they have. But I can say without fear of contradiction that once they are in this race, they find means of financing themselves. So it's not going to be easy because giving the other colleagues who are contesting, they are also giants. And that is not going to be easy.
And that is the interesting bit. Even apart from Asabi, I would also ask you briefly about what do you think about his chances as a first-time contender, Stephen Asamoah Boateng. I've seen him talking up a storm in recent times. And George Kwabena Abankwah, also a first-time contestant. There are others that we cannot write off because on election day, anything could happen, like Sir John says. We'll be bringing in Sir John shortly. But we also have Professor Christopher Ameyawe Kumfi. We all know him. Akwesi Osei J, Sami Crab, and Gifty Asantewa Aye, also known as Davi Ama. All of these people are in the race.
Yes, they are great guys. Because if you look at somebody like Akwesi Osei J, a former deputy minister for industry, trade and industry, and then he became deputy minister for foreign affairs. Great guy. He was one of the lieutenants of President Kufuor. He did a lot. He was the one who really, introduced this Friday Wire before it was taken over by Mr. Alam Chamating and all that. Yes, he's somebody who can also spring a surprise. He's calm, very quiet, but he's very strategic. He has ideas, and he flows with the rank and file of the people. He has constituencies within the party that if they are going to vote for him, it's going to be massive. We can also not discount Professor Ameyawe Kumfi, former Director General of Ghana Education Service. He became Minister of Education, a great, lecturer and all that. He also has followers. And when he became a minister, he served his country very well. He's very articulate. He has ideas. And he'll be able to, when he was a minister, weather the storm within his ministry and all that. He's a very important figure for this race. So the race is not going to be easy. Look at Asamoah Boateng, a very quality material at that level. He has been in student politics when he was a student, NUCS for that matter. He has also served his country very well in various capacities as a minister, as a CEO and whatnot. And he's a party man. He flows with the rank and file of the country, and he's known in every nook and cranny of the country. And I tell you, I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a daunting task for whoever will emerge victorious. But at the end of the day, we know that election will produce one winner, and then the party will rally behind that person to fight the 2024 battle.
Let's check out some other stories from the Daily Graphic newspaper. I'll turn to page 13, where there are two major headlines. The first one, government retreats, discusses way forward for economy, and the government has held a 4-day retreat at the Presidential Lodge in Peduase to discuss the economy, take stock of programs and chart a path for growth. The retreat, the second this year, which had almost all members of government present, started last Friday and discussed the various flagship programs, how to communicate government programs effectively, and the reason for accessing, the International Monetary Fund program. We're looking for something around 1.5 billion American dollars. The engagement started sometime yesterday with the IMF team in Parliament, the Parliamentary Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee, finance gurus in the system, all of them meeting. Fruitful discussions so far, it would appear, but there's quite a lot, isn't it, in terms of expectancy about whether we can even get a program from the IMF and what we would do. Already we've heard people in the agri-sector and all of that bidding or pitching for some of the money, which we're told would be going into debt servicing, among other things. Your quick thoughts on the IMF program and the way forward, very, very quickly.
Yes, it's unfortunate we have arrived at where we are now, and it's partly due to poor management, partly due to our ability to ensure prudence in the use of financial resources, and then also government push charge. Because sometimes some of these things, ideas are thrown out to government, but government will throw them out. And now here we are. We're already here. So the way forward is that they need to be sober and then reflect on things that really work for us. There are a lot of programs this government has thrown out. The ones that are not working, they should be bold enough to cancel them. They should not think of deceiving themselves that, look, if we throw them out, we are going to suffer during the campaign and all that. Get a few ones that you can run and run well going, so that at the end of the day, you can make some gains and then use it to campaign during elections. Let us also know that the exercise they are going through is not only for elections, but it's for the sustenance of this country, and that they owe it a duty to themselves and the state that once we have given them the mandate to run on our behalf, they need to make sure that our resources are used for the betterment of the people. For that matter, they need to take very important decisions that will stand the test of time. Right. And they must be very accommodating to issues or ideas from whatever cover. Even if the ideas are coming from, excuse my language, the devil, and it can help this country. Why not? They must be in a position to use it to address this challenge, because this is a time that we can't throw any beautiful idea away, because we are running out of time.
And then quickly to wrap with the Daily Graphic, request to freeze Sir John's assets. I told you you would be going back to Sir John. Special prosecutor to appeal High Court's ruling. Now the special prosecutor, Kisia Jabing, has served notice to appeal the High Court's dismissal of his application seeking confirmation to freeze the assets of the late former Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kwadwo Owusu-Efriye. The application filed on June 9, 2022 was seeking to effectuate the freezing order on the assets. So just to, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor, I don't know whether it was Kisia Jabing himself manning the Twitter handle or the social media handle. He had a bit of a banter with another person. But the core point is he is saying the justice of the High Court erred in the sense that it's a freezing order and they want a continuation of saying so investigations and other matters can be held. Not a confiscation order, which would then mean that he is pushing for Sir John and all these assets to be confiscated, basically, so they will not be accessible to anybody indefinitely. I don't know. And he makes it clear here that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is going to continue with its investigations, and that such moves by the justicial system will only go to, impact the fight against corruption. What's your take on this, Doc?
Oh, I think it's a simple matter. Those who are in law understand the language of the court very well. I believe that if you go to court and you are not satisfied with the decision of the court, you know what to do. And being an experienced lawyer, he knows what to do. So we want to wait, and then he carry out his program of going to the next court for a review, so that we can all come back and reflect on them. But for now, I believe that he knows what to do. And let him proceed, and let's see how the justice system would deliver the public good for us.
Let's get to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. I was talking to you a short while ago about free SHS and some of the hobbling difficulties we've been facing. I heard Kwesi Kwating, PRO of the Ghana Education Service, yesterday, and it was not very comforting. But Child Rights International is saying IMF program should not affect free SHS. Mr. Bright Apia pictured there. That story on page 15. In fact, page 15 of the paper. We also have immigration personnel put on high alert on Ghana-Burkina Faso border at Mognori to avert terrorist attack. Story on page 17. Let's just take a few thoughts from there. And personnel of the Ghana Immigration Service have intensified patrols at the Ghana-Burkina Faso border at Mognori and Ghana-Togo border in Boku in the Upper East region to avert any acts of terrorism. The heavy security detail at the border towns has been occasioned by suspected terrorist attacks that claim 2 lives, including a local imam at a village called Benyaile in neighboring Burkina Faso. So quite a bit of concern in there. But hold your thoughts. I'll just add this one so you can share your thoughts on them as well. Let's focus on influencing global economic order. President Akufo-Addo urges African leaders. And then, again, 1,300 killed in road crashes from January to June 2022. The numbers are easing compared to last year, but they are still rather bad. And tied to that, yesterday we heard of the incident of the MCE for Bibiani Anriaso Bekwai, who had an accident. There was an accident and his driver, suspected to have been killed. He himself supposedly receiving treatment. Your quick reflections on these stories. So IMF program should not affect free SHS Child Rights International. The security issue as far as immigration personnel at Mognori are concerned, and 1,300 killed in road crashes. Like I'm telling you, an MCE also, struggling for his life, basically.
I'll start with the SHS program and the IMF. There's no doubt that this free senior high school program is a good one. But the stark reality is that, look, we don't have what it takes to manage it. So there will be a reflection on that. Yes, it is our hope and prayer that this program will be sustained. But look, we can't be confident about that because IMF will scrutinize it. And if they believe that they need to maintain, they will maintain. Otherwise, they can throw it away. Let's wait and see what their decision will be. But for now, we can't be sure because for them, they do proper assessment. You see, as soon as you get to IMF, the meaning is that you are unable to manage your resources very well. So once they come in, they want to ensure prudent management of resources to attract results. And that, if they stand on that, they are going to stand on that, anything can happen to that program. So we must brace ourselves for the decision that will come from IMF. Then the issue of terrorism, it is a big one. Because if you look at the sub-region, we are inundated with cases of terrorism. We have been lucky, and I think God will continue to protect us. But we also need to help ourselves. What am I saying that? Sometimes we think it's the duty of government to ensure that we are safe. We as a people owe it to ourselves that first and foremost, we must survive. And our survival depends upon our very effort that we give toward the state to protect us. So the immigration people, the security people are doing their bit, but we must also volunteer information to them. We must also support them in various ways. When we see something, we must report something. And that they also must be up and doing and then do the needful to protect all of us. It is a joint program between security people and we as citizens of this country. It is not a one-way traffic. Then the issue about road accident. It's unfortunate that we continue to lose lives, precious lives, on our roads, simply because there are carelessness on our road. There are certain difficulties. There are engineering problems. There are even things that we have not taken proper look at. If you look at, for instance, even within Accra, there are a lot of broken down traffic lights. We have complained time and again, and no solution is found. Yet there are people whose duty it is to maintain this, and they draw salary on the public purse, and yet we have this problem. And they are the source of accident that we have. If you go to the hinterlands and other places, we have bad roads and all that create this problem. And of course, we have people who are careless about the rules governing driving and all that. I think going forward, the police must be up and doing and strengthen the surveillance program. Government must also come in to ensure that the roads are fixed so that we don't create opportunity for these things to happen. And of course, those who manage and maintain the road systems, lights and all that, they must also be seen to be working. When we get all these things right, I'm sure, and a continuous education about road safety must be strengthened. Once we put all these bases right, we'll get it right and then save lives for this country.
Let's take a few more stories from 3 different papers very quickly. Republic Press, Ghanaians need to see evidence of your 30% salary cut. Professor Jampo to Akufo-Addo, your own colleague there. That's in Republic Press. They also have Kola Choke's government. Then the Daily Guide newspaper. We have mid-year budget review postponed. That is on the back of the engagements with the team from the IMF. A national cathedral government risks $8 million judgment debt over buildings demolished. I don't know which of those issues you would like to tackle, but since we're wrapping the conversation, let me also maybe just sneak these by you in case you might be interested in talking about them. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia will be speaking tomorrow on the economy, specifically why we're going the way of the IMF. There is that assertion by the NDC that there is a move for Ghanaians to register for election 2024 with the Ghana card. And there is an engagement today at the NDC's headquarters. And there's also the issue of one knee, i.e., if you remember the Arise Ghana demonstration, who was hit in his eye with a bullet. Now he is blind. Pick and choose your issues, and we can wrap with them.
I think I will start with the Ghana card. All right. This Ghana card is an important one. If you go to advanced democracies, they have so many cards that they use to run their elections. We don't have the situation. That's not the case in Ghana. But once we have something that is going, we can incorporate a lot of data in. Why not? We have spent so much in developing this Ghana card. So if that is what we are going to use for the election, fine. I don't think that it's a problem. But if there is a certain there are ideas
the point is that so many people are still unregistered, and you know what implications that would have.
Oh, if you really want to use it for election, you can disenfranchise people by not allowing them to register. So definitely they have to open it up for people to register so that they can also exercise their right when it comes to election. That they have to do that. But for me, I support the Ghana card because it saves us of every year going to what? Have a new voter register where people go to court and all that. We can count the number of times that we have raised issue about what? Voter register and all that. So if we firm this, I think it will cure all that mischief that we have within our electoral system so that we can have something credible for elections.
Right.
Let me also come into what Jempo said about the cards. Right. I agree with him because, you see, government must walk the talk of letting us know how much is being derived from that exercise. And we want to see evidence of that. Because for all you know, the amount that we were talking about, the cuts, that is not what we are seeing. And then for people to gain confidence in the system, it's in line with good governance agenda, where we said everything government does, there must be opportunity for people to assess and for people to ensure that there is transparency. So it is incumbent upon them to be able to make it transparent for us to see. If you look at the money that they are raising from this, it tells you that there's no point having this big government that doesn't help anybody. Right. After all, we have seen that the size of government did not help anybody. It just was an exercise to just, support food soldiers and party people because the results are out here. We have gone to IMF. So what is the evidence that the government wanted us to wait and have? There is no evidence. So the earlier the government reduce the size of the government, the better, so that we can save little money and put them into proper use.
Doc, thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you for bearing it all. And we wish you the very best of the day, sir.
I'm grateful. Have a great day.
Dr. Kwame Asante, of course, Director for the Center for European Studies, also a political scientist at the University of Ghana. Time now for us to cede and allow the sporting crew to come through. Local sports, international sports, all coming your way. Do stay. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. It's time for us to dig into our big stories, and we start with quite a number of them. We're going to be talking about a host of issues with our guests. I'll be introducing them to you shortly. So we have joining us in the studio Let me just get it. Dr. Kingsley Nyako, who is Member of Parliament for Kwadaso. He is in the studio here with us. Doc, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm well. I also nearly said Dr. Roxin Nelson Dafiamekpo. Maybe I'm speaking into his future. Roxin Nelson Dafiamekpo is Member of Parliament for South Dai. He's also a member of the Parliamentary, so the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. Roxin, thank you for joining.
And also Public Accounts.
And Public Accounts.
And also Standing Orders Committee.
Right. I also know you are a member of some committees of Parliament. Every member of Parliament must be on some committee.
Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee.
Did you say education?
Education.
Okay.
Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee and special budget.
Asking how much poverty is reduced.
So these are the guests joining us. But first of all, we'll be looking at the matter of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And we're going to have an interaction with lawyer Bobby Banson on that matter. I'll come to my guests in the studio as well for them to give their takes on that all-important matter. But let me say a very good morning to lawyer Bobby Banson. Bobby Banson, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to Senior Dafiamekpo. He's left the bar for us.
Oh, Bobby, you are prospering at the bar.
Senior, we're following you small.
Yes.
And then he ran away and left you.
And that's how I've paved the way for you now. And you are flourishing.
Ayo, so good to have you, but please drop the sir. Why? It makes me feel a bit. I think we've gone beyond sir for now, Bobby. Anyway, so let's get into the meat of the matter. Interesting developments as far as this, High Court ruling is concerned. And yesterday, the Office of the Special Prosecutor took to social media in a hot banter with a few people. But the point to be made is that we're looking at the assets of Kwejo Uswefrie, aka Sir John. He has passed on to glory, but his assets are still, mired in some sort of controversy, especially those to do with the Achimota Forest, the Ramsar site, and all of that. And just to give a bit of a background, there had been a freeze imposed on these controversial assets, or all the assets, so to speak. The High Court has given the ruling that no, that freeze is not going to continue. And now it's become a thorny matter because the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Ejabeng, is saying it was an error that the Justice of the Court ruled, because freezing assets and confiscating assets are two wholly different things. So, Bobby, let's start the conversation from there. I know it will be tricky for you to say the Justice of the Court was in error, but do explain for us freezing assets versus confiscating assets. What are the core differences?
For me, it's an academic issue. The temptation is for the discussion to be drawn towards that side. To be frank, to be very honest with you, I do not think that was the focus of the judges. I have not seen a copy of a ruling, but listening to the reportage, I do not think that was the focus of the argument.
There definitely are other angles, but you can go to what you think is the focus then.
Yeah, no, if you look at the OSP Act, the means by which the assets of a person who is suspected to have acquired them unlawfully within the ambit or the jurisdiction of the scope of duty of the OSP could either be frozen under Section 32, I believe, or 38, mostly, one of them. Neither Section 32 or 38 uses the word confiscation. I stand to be corrected.
Right.
They both use the word freezing. Mm-hmm. And so to contend that, okay, there's a difference between confiscation and freezing, in the context of the application that was before the court,
right,
I think is quite a red herring.
So let's just do this. So confiscation does not exist technically in that sense.
No,
is it relevant? Is it relevant to these aspects, these articles you are quoting, or is it generally in the law?
No, confiscation exists. The state has the right to confiscate assets that were acquired unlawfully. So if you look at, I believe it should be, for example, if somebody is found guilty of peddling in drugs or, that narcotics, and then they are able to prove that you have acquired some assets from the revenue from those narcotics trade, after you have been found guilty, one of the orders a court can make is that the assets that you have acquired from those illegal activities should be confiscated to the state.
Right. But Bobby, so I get the concept of confiscation generally in the law. I was just wondering whether you were speaking specific to the relevant articles, 32 and I think 38 that you were mentioning. That's why I was asking whether you were speaking specific to those.
So, yes. Yes. So my opening remarks were specific to the sections in the OSP Act that gives the special prosecutor the right to go to court to apply for a confirmation of any freezing orders that the special prosecutor has done. And that is why I'm saying that without prejudice to the processes that were filed before the court, if you look at sections 32 and 38, they don't use the word confiscation. Because confiscation, from my understanding, is a final order that is made after the accused person has been found guilty of an offense. But if you are still investigating, it cannot be an issue of confiscation. And it's not only the Special Prosecutors Act that has that provision. I believe the IOCO, the Enabling Act of Economic and Organized Crime, also has a similar thing, which we have seen being done a lot, especially with anti-money laundering fights. They do it a lot.
Is that to suggest, Bobby, that when the special prosecutor then suggests that he wasn't referring to a confiscation but a freezing, it is fundamentally flawed, it is erroneous?
Well, like I said, I have not seen a copy of the judge's ruling. I will not go to the extent of saying that it is fundamentally flawed. I'm only stating my understanding of section 32 and 38, unless his position is that the judge relied on another section of the OSP Act, which mentioned confiscation. I have not seen that yet.
Okay.
And so to the extent that I know there was an application to confirm a freezing order that has been made by the OSP, I believe that he would either come under 32 or 38.
All right. Let's look at this freezing. What happens in the process? I mean, let's look at the tenure, for example. How long does this usually stand? And now the special prosecutor wanted an extension, and the court did not grant him this. He says he's going to go ahead and continue with investigations and all of that. But what usually is the lifespan of such a freeze? What is expected to be done in the interim when such a freeze is granted? Because initially that was granted and now has been quashed by the High Court.
That is. So there are two procedures to adopt. The first procedure under section 32. If the special prosecutor is investigating someone, or not investigating. If the special prosecutor suspects that someone has acquired an asset unlawfully or abused his public office to acquire an asset, the special prosecutor on his own, without a court order, without notice to that person, can freeze the assets of that person. Within 7 days after the special prosecutor has made that freezing order, the special prosecutor must apply to a court for a confirmation of that freezing order. When that freezing order is confirmed by the court, I believe within 60 days or so, the special prosecutor must actually charge the person with an offense. And once you have charged the person, you go back to the court to tell the court that I came for a confirmation of the freezing order. I have actually now gone ahead to charge the person with these offenses. So extend the freezing order for a 2-year period per time, at every point in time, whilst the prosecution of the substantive offense continues. That is one approach. The second approach under section 38, I believe, is where the assets are being held by somebody. The special prosecutor wants to investigate. He wants to investigate not the person who holds the assets, but he wants to investigate another person. So, for example, I'm driving a car. The special prosecutor comes to me and says that I am in possession of the car, but the car is not in my name. It is in the name of, let's say, Senior Nelson. But the special prosecutor wants to freeze the car, as in prevent me from driving it. Because I'm the one in possession, the freezing order at first instance will be directed to me, because I'm the one in possession. But I'm not the subject of the investigations. It's Senior Nelson who is the subject of the investigations. In that instance, the special prosecutor has 14 days to apply for a freezing order. So you see, the first instance is if the person who holds the asset is the subject of the investigations.
Right.
The second instance is the person who holds the asset is not the subject of the investigations. Now, in Sir John's case, he's passed and gone. Whilst he was alive, nobody investigated him. He's gone. Now he dies leaving behind a will. The will names an executor or executors. The executors in law are not the owners of the property. They only have an obligation to distribute the property in accordance with the will of the deceased after a court has granted probate.
Right.
And then the beneficiaries of the will, if the executors put in or they execute what we call vesting assent, now become the owners of the property. Now, if you look at Sir John's situation, the special prosecutor cannot investigate the executors. He cannot investigate the beneficiaries for offenses allegedly done by Sir John. Because Sir John is dead, past and gone. You cannot, if my father commits a crime and he dies and he leaves me a house, you cannot come and punish me for the offense that my father committed. If you never charged him or punished him at the time of his death. And so if the special prosecutor brought an application to confirm that he wants an order to, for a confirmation order of his freezing order, let me put it that way, then the special prosecutor must indicate who is in possession of that asset and who is the subject matter of the investigations.
And as of now, we do not have people in possession of the assets. We're still at the point where the executors have to now, because the disbursement has not even been done per the law. So that makes it problematic.
The subject matter of a court dispute, I'm told. The will itself is the subject matter of a court dispute. So who is the subject of your investigations? Is it the deceased?
Right.
Men don't talk, they say. So how are you going to investigate him?
So this creates a very tricky situation, because the person in contention who would have been at the center of this has passed. Of course, we have the executors who also have a simple duty of ensuring that the will or the last testament of Sir John is carried out per the guidelines that the law stipulates. And there are the beneficiaries on the other end who for now have been pretty quiet on all of these happenings. But the special prosecutor is saying that, look, the court has misapprehended this, and like we were speaking about earlier, there are different considerations when it comes to confiscation, and that if we leave the process hanging as it is, you remember that the Ghana Integrity Initiative, other civil society groupings and others said, look, OSP, move for the freeze, and he did that. Now he proceeded to do that, and he is indicating that as he continues with his investigations, which he has said he will continue anyway, if this freeze is not in place, it's going to hamper the matter, because the assets in question may not be available at the time when his conclusions are, his investigations are concluded. Valid point?
Well, lawyers always say that the justice, so let me put it that way. The courts are not there to fight corruption. Judges do not fight corruption. It is the responsibility of the Attorney General, IOCO, Special Prosecutor, or any other agency set up by law. What the courts are there to do is to dispense justice. And justice is not dispensed according to public opinion, or perception, or suspicion, or emotions. justice is dispensed in accordance with statute, well-defined practice, and case law. And so if the special prosecutor is of the opinion that Sir John has acquired these assets, or the Ghana Integrity Initiative is of the opinion that the late Sir John has acquired assets unlawfully, the next question you must ask yourself, what is the procedure to establish this? If you don't follow the procedure, you may have all the evidence. You will not have your day in court.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right.
And so it's not a matter of public perception. And that is why I found, I don't know if you come to that part, I find that part of his press release saying that if it's allowed to stand, it will be a fight, or there was a part that suggests
right.
That,
we can get the statement from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Let me just look for it here. But I see the part you're referencing where he talks about what it would mean for the fight against corruption. So I found it on my. He talks about that if this decision is left to stand, the Republic will lose the fight against corruption in unimaginable ways. I think that's what you're referencing, right?
Yes, that is what it's. I find that part of his release quite, or it could have been avoided. The reason being that you see that part of his statement has the potential of crippling public sentiment negatively against the bench, because you are suggesting that judges have made, or the judge has delivered a ruling that will embolden people to be corrupt.
But judges can err. Judges can err. In the United States, we have a case, a 10-year-old and all of judges err. Sometimes it takes decades to get the right thing done.
And so if you have exercised your right to appeal, issuing such statements is likely to prejudice the outcome of the appeal.
Okay, so to wrap the conversation, Bobby Banson, so that brings me to my next point, and I just want you to look at a few issues. What does this mean? Is it a stab in the back as far as the fight against corruption is concerned? This ruling, what does it mean? Because, we've all spoken about the Office of the Special Prosecutor. We've moved from Martin Amidu to Kisia Jabeng, and you know that the entire situation. Is this a stab in the back of the fight against corruption, as he suggests? And is this going to unnecessarily antagonize the bench? Because the special prosecutor must work with the bench to achieve the ends that he desires. Just answer these two briefly, succinctly for me.
I don't see it as a stab in the back. The judges are there to interpret and apply the law passed by legislature. So if you apply a procedure that the judge, remember the judge didn't make a statement that Sir John acquired the thing lawfully. The merits of the or the investigations was not the subject matter of the decision of the court. The court said, I decline, or you have not invoked my jurisdiction properly because you have not adopted the right procedure. If you go and adopt the right procedure, we can go through or carry on with your process. But as it stands now, you have not adopted the right procedure. I do not think it's a stab in the back. Like I said, justice is dispensed in accordance with statute, case law, and practice and procedure. So if the judge is of the opinion, she may be right or she may be wrong, that you have adopted the wrong procedure, your right to appeal is there.
And he has triggered that. He has triggered that.
And, yes. And then do not make
you feel
statement.
Yeah, the second part of the question. I'm sorry I'm pushing you a bit, but we're pressed for time. Pardon me. Do you feel this is going to create any frostiness as far as the OSP and the bench is concerned? Because in the end, they must work hand in hand.
Yes, I don't think so. I mean, Senior Kisia Jabeng is a well-established professional. I don't think he will personalize this. And for sure, the judges do not personalize such cases. That is their opinion on the law. That is how they want to apply it. If you disagree, you go on appeal. Remember, Attorney General loses cases and wins cases, just like every lawyer. So you do not personalize a case or the outcome of a case because it didn't go in your favor. I'm sure that if he pursues the appeal and the appellate court is convinced with his argument, they will grant it. If the other side, because it must be on notice, is dissatisfied with the outcome of the court, the decision of the Court of Appeal, they also have a right of appeal to the Supreme Court until it's finally determined. So I don't think that it has any potential of of mind the relationship between the OSP's office and the court. They work hand in hand, and there's nothing personal about this.
Bobby, thank you so much for your illuminating thoughts. Always refreshing to have you. We're grateful for your time. Thank you. That is lawyer Bobby Banson, a lawyer and, of course, a lecturer as well. Let me come into the studio now on that same matter as we proceed with other matters, a basket of matters we're going to be discussing. I'll start with you, Roxanne. You're a lawyer.
Yes.
Reflecting on what has happened, what Kessie Ejabing, so the rhetoric, I don't need to go over the entire bit.
Yes.
And the reactions of Bobby Banson. What are your quick reflections?
I totally agree with Banson in respect of the unkind reactions by the OSP. In respect of the.
Did he overshoot it?
I think so. I think if I had said this, I would have come under a barrage of attacks for attacking the judiciary. And he being the special prosecutor. And indeed, the act that sets the institution up gives him the right of appeal. And the right of appeal in this matter is also constitutionally guaranteed. So I don't see why he said, he made the kind of comment he made in the statement, the manner that he did.
Do you feel he was overcome by emotion? He allowed emotion
yes, I
to
think
get him?
like Bobby said, he's personalized the issue. And clearly, you see, if you are investigating crime, the suspects ought to be given a hearing.
Exactly.
That's the right under law. Now you
and in our jurisdiction, unlike in other jurisdictions, it is innocent until proven guilty.
But the fundamental point I want to make is that when you say you are investigating a crime and you have suspects, you have to give them the right of hearing. That is why we take caution statement and charge statement. It's not for nothing that statements are taken from the suspects. And when you establish a prima facie determination, then you charge them and you now take what we call charge statement. How is he going to do this to Sir John? How are you going to give a hearing to Sir John who is gone? In any case, I want to understand what the Office of the Special Prosecutor is doing. Is he investigating the estate of Sir John, which is an entity under law? We need to understand that. If he's investigating the estate, it should come clear that perhaps the estate has engaged in some crime.
If you look at the directives, on May 20, 2022, the Office of the Special Prosecutor directed the freezing of the estate of the late Mr. Efriye. So it's a two-pronged affair. Who was popularly known as Sir John. The offences were in respect of an alleged improper and unlawful acquisition of state property at the Achimota Forest Enclave and the Ramsar
This is where the problem is for me as a practitioner. Are you accusing the estate of Sir John for fraudulently acquiring those properties? Or you are accusing the diseased Sir John?
That is the point that Bobby Banks
Yeah, exactly. And under law, when you do that, you are running yourself into problems. Then two, you see, the OSP Act provides for a freezing order and an order for confiscation. And these terms are clearly defined in the law. A freezing order is a temporary order.
Of course,
it's a temporary
forever.
seizure.
You can renew,
exactly.
But it can't be
it's a
frozen
temporary seizure. It lasts for 12 months, according to Section 43 also. Now, you confiscate a property when there's a closure. When the property is tainted, there's closure to the matter. So you go back to court to now convert a seizure order to a confiscated order or a confiscation order. So that's about that. But I think that this matter, we should all proceed very carefully. Otherwise, tomorrow we'll have busybodies, state institutions with prosecutorial powers going after dead people. Our laws are very clear. Our jurisprudence in criminal matters are very clear. You don't investigate dead people. Yes, you cannot investigate a dead person because when you claim to investigate a dead person, you must give the person a hearing. The person cannot be heard.
Audi alteram part.
Yes. So I don't know how he's going to achieve that unless it's an exercise in futility.
So in his shoes, just to wrap the conversation on this, and also to give Dr. Kingsley a bit of a bite on that, in case he has any thoughts on that. In the shoes of the special prosecutor, what would you be doing now?
I think he should abandon the matter.
He should abandon the
Yes, clearly.
But this is a core matter of interest. You sat here on this show.
Relax.
No, yes. You sat here on this show and spoke about Sir John and this and that.
Yes, but the estate.
And now you're saying it should abandon.
But the estate has not committed a crime. There's only a suspicion.
Right.
The estate has not committed a crime.
So legally speaking, how do you bring closure to a matter like this?
What the state can do is to institute a civil action against the estate.
Right.
And say that the supposed clauses as they are in Sir John's will, devising certain properties, including portions of the Achimota forest, are not his personal property. You can contest that. And therefore, he cannot, as it were, will it to his benefactors under his will. You can contest the right of him having acquired those properties as an individual, and which, if the court agrees with you, will not form part of his estate for purposes of disposition. But if you want to go into whether or not he committed a crime in acquiring those properties, it's a journey to nowhere. It's a journey to nowhere. The state can contest that the property that has supposedly been devised in the will of Sir John does not belong to him. And you cannot give out what you don't have. I have done cases where properties were bequeathed by testators, and it turned out that it was a family property. So the court decreed that those properties be taken out of the will of the testator. We do that all the time. Because you can only give what you have to another. You can only devise what you have to another.
Right.
And wills only come into effect after your death.
Okay, so it is clear for you, you feel the OSP should abandon this?
Yes.
They should just let go?
Yes.
So the investigations that he speaks of, he should let that go as well?
Of course. But the point I'm making is that, what are you investigating?
Point made.
Yes.
Let me come to Dr. Nyako. Maybe your quick thoughts on this. Yeah. You are not a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer.
You're an academic, but what is your thinking on this?
Yeah, so thanks, Ben. Good morning to your cherished viewers, my constituents from Kwadaso, my good friend Roxanne. So for me, remember I sat on the show and I said that if possible, there should be investigations into the alleged properties acquired by Sir John, and if it is established that any of them was illegally acquired, then the state can go into it. That was a point I made, and I think I still stand.
You stick to it.
Yeah, but
and I do recall that you made that point.
Yeah, what I want to also establish is that there has not been corruption unraveled in this matter. It is alleged. That is why, for me, we need to go into it. So if the special prosecutor sees that what happened at court yesterday means that the fight against corruption is going
to be, in his words, affected in unimaginable ways.
He's wrong.
He's wrong. The special prosecutor is wrong.
Because no corruption has been unearthed now. It's an allegation.
But it's problematic. The Achimota forest is not personal property. Willing such property, from the Ramsar side, from Achimota itself is problematic, isn't it?
No, it's a civil wrong.
He says, I'm not a lawyer, but the point is that you need to establish there should be a prima facie case that this case is saddled with corruption, and the court is not trying to express justice. If you're not been able to establish that, you don't come to that conclusion. And again, you see, freezing of assets. Assets freezing is a temporary or interlocutory injunction against a defendant for that defendant not distributing assets, okay? So the point is that, who is the defendant in this case? Okay, so is the matter even before the courts? What I do recall is that he issued a directive that his assets should be frozen. So is the case before the court? Is there a defendant to it? So if there's no defendant to, if there's the matter proper is not before the courts, why should you even apply for, his assets to be, the freezing of the assets
in
to be
this,
confirmed.
in this case, a suspect.
Right.
Or
To
you
be
are
confirmed. So for me, he is proceeding wrongly in this matter.
The OSP is proceeding wrongly.
Yes, and he is arriving at a very predetermined wrong conclusion, indicting the bench, which for me is unfair. He has to be very careful.
Don't you think it's more of his zealousness when it comes to the fight against corruption?
If zealousness doesn't mean that you need to undermine procedure. Or your opinion shouldn't be the overriding opinion. You don't do that. Let us allow procedures, to work. I support the fight against corruption, but you cannot fight corruption without having a justified or strong foundation to stand on. So, Kisi, my former colleague at the University of Ghana, he has to do things right and stop putting the impression that the fight against corruption is a mirage. It's not going to go nowhere. I think I disagree with him on that score. He is saying he's going to file for an appeal, and I support that. But from the foundation, I don't think he has strong legs to stand on in this particular matter. For me, if the investigations that he is conducting have been done and concluded with evidence, that is when you can go to court and fight against the estate of Sir John.
All right.
You've not done with the investigations, and you are coming out with conclusions. I think
Dr. Kingsley Nyarko stating that Kisi Ejabing has to tread cautiously because in this instance he has no legs to stand on. So pretty slippery slope, at least per my panel. Dr. Nyarko, who says he has no legs to stand on. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakbo, who says in terms of procedure there may be some bits left in there, and Bobby Banton as well. Let's see how things go as the special prosecutor continues with his investigations. But gentlemen, let's talk money matters. Maybe some would go back to corruption, but let's focus on the IMF before we even talk labor. The IMF is in town, and that can only mean one thing. We're looking for a program. We're seeking some $1.5 billion to do so many things. Part of it to pay our debt, give us some breathing space when it comes to our economy, and deal with other issues. Engagements commencing yesterday at the same time that Labour was also agitating. We'll get to that like I intimated. We also know of the engagements at Pediase, to sort of take stock of where we find ourselves in terms of our economic outlook, and take stock of programs and chart a path for growth. The Finance Committee of Parliament has been meeting on this matter, and there have been engagements from both the minority and the majority sides. I'll start with you, Roxanne. So far, looking at the processes and the talk of transparency so that we can have the real facts and nothing but the facts and deal with the issues, because it's said that if you are sick and you pretend you are not, the doctor cannot, or if you do not tell the doctor what your sickness
or your
is,
malady is,
there will be no proper diagnosis.
Yes.
Your take on that?
Yes, quickly. I'm wondering what they'll go to Pediase to do. They were in Pediase in January. They came out to say that the economy was robust. The economy was in good shape. The economy was healthy. the economy was moving in the right direction with all the appropriate indicators. 5 months down the line, the economy is in a decline. The economy needs to be resuscitated. We have to go back to IMF. Now, for the past 2 years, the IMF alone gave us in excess of 2 billion to do things in our economy by way of the COVID, to fight COVID and other things. If 2 billion is not able to help us, how much will 1.5 billion do?
It depends on the exigencies of the time.
Yes, but what were the exigencies?
We can't get the Eurobonds now.
What were the exigencies?
Our creditors are reluctant to give us money because of the risks inherent in the system.
And
we need some breathing space.
And because of how large government is and how profligate our expenditure lines are. Let me ask you this. We're giving 2 billion during COVID within the past 2 years. We haven't built a single hospital with it. We haven't built a single disease control center with it. The only disease control center we built during COVID, we had to call on the public to assist. So you ask yourself, the funds that we've been given, how do we apply it? What exactly are we going to apply this IMF 1.5 billion to?
Okay, so
my understanding, it's a rhetorical question.
Right.
My understanding is that there's a budget deficit.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, the same government.
I just wanted to give us all a full list, so we can deal with it. To address economic challenges, balance of payments.
What does economic challenges mean?
To help the nation access additional financing from third parties, and we know why. Because they are reluctant now, enhance Ghana's financial credibility, and we've already seen some benefits of that.
So we don't have financial credibility.
By merely knocking
we don't have financial credibility.
The IMF to restore investor confidence, to restore debt sustainability, macroeconomic stability.
Exactly.
I mean, it goes on and on.
So we don't have financial credibility. And two, we were told that government is cutting down its own expenditure lines for 2022 by 30%. I filed a question directed at the Minister of Finance to come and tell Parliament what those 30% expenditure lines mean. What exactly are those expenditure lines? He's not been able to tell us. So when you keep saying that you've reduced your expenditure lines for 2022 by 30%, and yet you are unable to tell the people's elected representative what exactly that 30% constitutes, we have a problem. It means we are still running a top-heavy government. Your expenditure projected of about 140 billion. Okay, you are still running that kind of budget with an expected revenue of about 100 million.
Our budget this for 2022 was 100.5 billion.
100 point what?
5 billion.
It wasn't.
100.5.
It wasn't.
That's correct.
It's 140. That's 140. That's the expenditure.
That is what was
that's expenditure. Yes, that's expenditure. The expected expenditure for 2022.
135 billion.
It's 140 billion.
No, if you add interest payment and amortization, it will go to.
It's 140 billion.
The expenditure.
The expected revenue is about 100 billion.
Yeah, that's what he said. 100.5 billion. That's what he said.
Well, so if we have expected revenue figures of about 100 billion and expenditure lines of about 140 billion, and you are saying you are cutting down on 30% of the expenditure lines, that is bringing you to about 30% of the 140 billion. Mm-hmm. That should bring you to about below 100 billion.
Let's do.
All right. So you should be within your expenditure lines, but they are not telling us. If government is able to reduce its expenditure lines by 30% of 140 billion, for me, that should come to about 90-something billion. So this talk about budget deficit, if you marry with their own declaration that they are reducing expenditure lines by 30%, I have a problem. Because we shouldn't have a problem if you are able to reduce your expenditure lines by 30%.
So if we're doing 30%, we should be erasing about 42 billion off of it.
It should bring you below 100.
98.5.
It should bring you below 100.
These are projections.
Exactly. But we work with projections. Whatever we are doing, we are not working with exactitudes. We are working with projections. And let me ask government, last year, you projected your revenue projections. You didn't match it. You did revenue of about 70. Why are you projecting from 70 to 100? What is the secret? That's about 30 billion jump. It's too high.
Some have said that it wasn't the word to use, but it wasn't realistic, so to put it. But you also look at our tax component, for example. Year on year, the GRA has been getting,
GRA, but if you calculate
we've been overshooting our expectations. By a few billion. By a few billion.
Yes,
the GRA has been getting more than even projected.
GRA only exceeded.
By the figures released by the
GRA didn't meet any of its projections except the customs division. Except the customs division. It's actually the customs division that is able to help GRA to meet
overall,
its target. All the other sectors,
in about 2
all
years,
the other sectors,
correct me if I'm wrong,
all the other sectors, they felt
more than
because of the customs division
for the year.
Because of the ports.
But we don't segregate them like that.
No, they are segregated.
No, I get you, but the point is that overall, the expectation was this, they overshot it. Did they overshoot it or not?
Akakpo. The GRA revenue segments are into about 5 or 6 segments.
I'm not disputing that.
Good.
I'm saying that when you lump them together without any disaggregation, did they overshoot their expectations or not?
Yes, because the customs division performs better. Apart from the customs division, all the other projections, they couldn't meet it. So, if you marry this to the projections from about 70 to 100 billion revenue expectations, it's too big a jump. It's too big a jump. So if the government is willing to actually cut down on projected expenditure by 30%, then they should be within their limits. Reasonable expenditure lines, about 98 billion. Reasonable expenditure projections of about 100 billion. We shouldn't have a problem, but we still have a problem. So it means that there's a disconnect somewhere.
Where is that disconnect?
The disconnection is that government should tell us what constitutes the 30% to be factored into the communication. They are not telling anybody. It is just a policy that they put out there. So I think that the IMF will not be able to help us because...
I think they will not be able to help us?
Yes, because the amount of money we are asking for is woefully inadequate. As a country, we need about 30 billion, the kinds of the crisis we have.
30 billion
$30 billion.
Dollars?
Yes.
I mean, do you realize what you're saying?
I do.
Multiply 30 billion by existing rates.
Yes.
Multiply that by...
Yes. Exactly my
what the
point.
rates are and the expectations in terms of even interest payments.
Exactly
do you realize what you're saying?
Do you know how much we borrowed within the past 5 years?
Over 200 billion.
Dollar equivalent.
Well, we'd have to do the calculations.
Okay, we borrowed about 8 billion within the past 5 years. 8 billion. Right. All right. Revenue projections has been around 250 billion Ghana cedis within the past 5 years. If we convert it into cedis, it comes to about $40 billion. We still have issues. Our developmental issues. We are having.
So you're speaking of a one-time solution.
A one-time solution.
But the solution to our economic woes is it goes beyond that. Look at.
It goes beyond what?
Our industrialization. We have not industrialized. Look at our import-export.
You see, because
look at our debts.
Yeah.
I've been reading documents in recent times about. Debts, is it justice for debt or something of the sort? There are organizations across the world who are saying, look, the West, there are certain things you have to do. Cut down on certain interest rates and all of that when it comes to African countries. China as well, you know. It's wider than you're just saying. We can't have a monetary fix, so to speak. Pump in the money, solve the problems.
Because
it doesn't work like that.
Because we are not validating the programs we are pumping the monies into. We pump so much money into planting for food and jobs. What is the valuation that we've done? We pumped so much money into one constituency, $1 million. How have you valued that?
Okay, let me get to Dr. Nyako and find out how they have valued that. the finance ministry or the finance minister has been saying that, look, we're going to have this program even, I mean, maybe at the earliest in the first quarter of 2023. By that time, we'll be in, I don't know, pretty dire economic straits, according to what the economists tell us. The IMF is in town. What is your reading of happening so far? How expectant are you that we can get a program, first of all? And are we being candid enough? Because that has also come into question.
Candid in terms of?
Well, the minority has been saying, for example, that, look, when you come, don't massage the figures. And that even in the first day of engagement, look, paint the proper picture so we can diagnose the right solutions to your malaise or your ailment.
Yeah, Ben, but the economic indicators are there for everybody to see. And we have nothing to hide. It is not true that at the beginning of the year, the government has been saying that the economy was robust and all that. We didn't say that. We have admitted, even in 2020 and 2021, that we are going through financial difficulties as a result of the spillover over the twin occurrences, COVID-19 and Ukraine-Russia war, ravaging almost every country in this world. That was why government decided to address these challenges both in the near term and long term by instituting interventions to help us out of the woods. You know, our difficulties as a nation have been structural. We all admit that. So any temporal fix wouldn't help this nation anywhere. So we need to.
So do you agree with a permanent fix, a la what Roxanne is saying?
Permanent fix, that is progressive. That is why if you look at the budget, when the NDC sought support from the IMF in April 2015, the $918 million. If you read the report by the executive committee of the IMF, they told them what to do and what not to do. They told them that our issues were structural and we need to, up domestic revenue. We need to stabilize our banking system. We need to deal with the energy sector crisis and all that. And also our wage bills. These were what the government was told. Luckily for us, we were able to navigate away from the Standard Credit Facility in 2018, and we had in our budget domestic solutions to our problems. Okay, because we all know that our revenues in terms of tax to GDP have been low. We know that direct taxes are low, about 12%, lower than the 20% threshold of the West African Economic Monetary Union. So we decided to introduce the yield levy. We decided to reverse the benchmark values. We introduced a common platform to deal with property tax. We introduced the fees and charges bill, the exemption bill. And the idea was that if we were able to fully implement these interventions, we should rake in much revenue so that we wouldn't even seek intervention from the IMF. We've gone to the IMF about 17 times. But my brother, we still come back to square one. So the most important thing to do is to look at how we can, within our own jurisdiction, raise monies. That has been our focus.
But that hasn't really worked.
It hasn't worked because
from the taxation end, we're overtaxing a small, bracket of people. We also have the other taxes that slap everybody, like VAT. But then now we've piled on so many taxes, sanitation, COVID-19 levy. Some have said that is a nuisance right now because, looking at what we've raked in, what the dynamics were, what we delivered to the people, and these taxes are still, all of them. We have the petroleum taxes and all of that. Yeah. And now even with fuel products, you see the impact that it's having. These have not worked.
Yeah, no. The point is that you are saying that only few of us pay direct taxes. In fact, when it comes to indirect taxes, almost all of us pay.
Right.
Because they are charged on goods and services.
That is
but the issue has to do with the direct taxes. So the yield levy was supposed to cure that to an extent, but it didn't see its proper implementation as a result of fierce opposition by our friends.
It's being implemented now.
I said fully implemented.
But it's being implemented
now. Yes, it is, but not
from all the indications that we are seeing, it's also not performing.
That was why I'm saying that it was not implemented in its fullest sense because so many exemptions were brought to the fore. The initial anticipation of about 6 billion was not realized because we brought in so many interventions and it delayed for about 5 months.
How many interventions were there? There were, so the first was, maybe you can talk about the delay. And then you can also talk about the fact that it was moved by 0.25% from 1.75 to 1.5. What else?
Oh, in addition, you remember remittances were part of the calculation. It was taken out. I'm sure you know that. Vendors were also taken off.
Okay.
Yes.
You are.
And so many other, because the bill came before us, and our friends, I mean, virtually kick against it. That is why we are having, less volumes and value.
So in essence, partly the minority is to blame for
largely, not partly. It was a deliberate attempt to frustrate, because their thinking is that if you're able to get in the indirect revenue, probably this country can navigate away from the difficulties we are going through. So they want to...
And that would mean they will not come to power? Likely.
Yes. Okay. So they want to frustrate us so that it will inure to their benefit. Recently, I'm sure you heard one of their key figures saying that they have succeeded in frustrating a government from raising revenue. And for me, that is not the right approach in dealing with our socio-economic issues in this country. And I am always persuaded that if this government is able to lay a fertile foundation, it's not possible that this government will be willing for rubber. So a fertile foundation means that it will be easier for the next person or the next administration that takes the realms of governance in this country. So for me, largely, our attempts, even the benchmark values reverse, initially it was 50% on imported goods, remember? And I think 30% on vehicles. We had to compromise because GUTA and AGI had issues. Eventually, it reduced to 30% for goods, imported goods, and 10% for vehicles. So it means that even the volumes and the value will decline. And again, it was implemented 3 months after the budget was implemented. So, and as we speak, the common platform for property tax, that we think that it could help us to rake in much needed revenue is not even implemented. Yeah, it was yesterday that the exemption bill was laid before the House. Yesterday, I was there when it was laid before the House. The fees and charges review, periodic review for every 5 years. The idea was to make money available to public institutions for them to have IGF to be self-sufficient financially. As we speak, it has not even been dealt with. So these interventions, if we had been able to get the cooperation of our colleagues from the other side and expedite them, I'm sure that we wouldn't have been where we are. I hear my friends always referencing La Côte d'Ivoire. The La Côte d'Ivoire within our sub-region has not sought support from the IMF. It is true, but I have the executive committee's assessment on Côte d'Ivoire, and the report says that for the past 10 years, their economy has been robust. That was why, as we speak, their inflation rate is less. The inflation rate has been less for the past 10 years.
But is that not an indictment on us? When you say for the past 10 years, their economy has been robust, your administration has been at the helm of affairs for 5 years.
No, you see, the point I'm making is that they have had a stable macroeconomic outlook for 10 years. We cannot boast of that legacy.
We've also boasted of saying.
No, I'm saying we cannot boast of that legacy per the macroeconomic indicators that we have. We went to IMF in 2015. It means our economy was not doing well. okay? Check our growth projections from 2014, 2009. The GDP growth in this country in 2008 was 9.2%, okay? The following year, 2009, it dipped to 4.8. 2011 was when we had, the biggest GDP growth because we started exporting oil in commercial quantities of 14%, my brother. Since that time, it started declining, okay? 2.9 in 2015, to 3.4 in 2016, so we started, doing well. Then COVID came. So we've not had that stability in terms of growth. And for me, that is a challenge that we need to confront. Okay. So these are some of the issues why we are where we are. And I agree with anybody that will suggest that we need to work in concert, both sides of the divide, to ensure that we deal with the structural issues. Otherwise, you go to IMF today, you come out tomorrow, and you go again when the fundamental structural challenges in our economy is not dealt with. Okay, so I'm hoping that the negotiations, no matter how much money we are going to get, will be just a temporary fix. Okay, but we must look from the near and long term how we can consistently work hard to move this country forward. And I always believe that from the figures that I've seen between 2017 and 2019, my brother, if these force majeure had not happened, we were on the pathway of sustained socio-economic growth.
Okay, point.
That's it.
Point made.
And he said something about, and I agree
quickly on that. I'll give you 30 seconds on that.
Our revenue, 2020, 2021, we were able to go beyond our target. Partly because of the interoperability, the paperless intervention at the port got us additional revenue. So we went beyond that. But my brother, the fact that you've exceeded your targeted revenue doesn't mean that you have monies that will face all your problems. It's a target, and we've gone beyond that. That margin, okay, could be used to offset your increased expenditure. That is it. It is true that we projected expenditure for 2022, 135 billion. If you add interest payment and amortization, we are talking about 145 billion. We have revenue projection of 100.5 billion, as we did say. The gap is about 45 billion. It is huge enough.
Just about 40 billion.
We are not even getting the needed revenue to be able to deal with what we are even projected as a result of deep business activities and all that. Okay, so for me, I'm hoping
in resolving this problem, I feel the other part of it. I'll give you a minute to rebut. No. I'll give you.
It said,
Roxanne,
brother.
Roxanne, hold on for me, please.
Yes.
I moderate this.
Yes,
we don't have infinite time. We have finite time.
Yes, but you give him so much time to say a lot of things.
No, but I give you ample time
against the minority.
I'll give you a minute and a half. But I also wanted to make this point. When we, as a country, for both of you, because you belong to different sides of the divide, as a country, if we're constantly having budgets that are tied to the apron strings of the West and Bretton Woods institutions, and you can't even facilitate your own budget, and you always leave a deficit, we'll always end up in the place. I don't get it. NP and NDC, don't you?
No. In 2016, we funded our budget solely from our domestic sources. Check 2016, before we left office. So they ought to have continued.
It's been a trend throughout our.
No, I am saying the breakthrough came. No, 2016. Doc, these are facts. Check.
$18 billion.
2016, we funded our budget solely from domestic sources. Check. Now, he says that the minority deliberately frustrated e-levy. And they keep singing this song. And such a tragedy that when the minority suggested, led by the minority leader, that e-levy should be 1% instead of 1.5%, and they rejected it, how do they expect us to feel? How does that constitute?
Was it about your feelings or the general good of the country?
No, but I am asking him. You sit here and say we deliberately. You brought a proposal. It is only a proposal. As a parliament, we have the right to make an input. We made an input. Hold on. We made an input. You rejected it. And then you say that we deliberately. When you decided for 5 months to keep to a single position of 1.75, you don't want to come down an inch.
That offer came from
when you were speaking.
But you said
when you were speaking,
you remove him.
When you were speaking,
so you withdrew.
When you were speaking, I was quiet.
You didn't propose
I was quiet.
Who proposed it?
Again, another fallacy is
but you rejected it.
Another fallacy is that because e-levy, the passage of e-levy was delayed. Even if e-levy had been passed 31st December 2021, it would have taken them 3 months to implement it. We passed e-levy 29th March 2022. How long did it take them to implement it?
He has stopped doing Momo. He has stopped because he thinks government
please, let's no. You have made some.
These people, they stop.
You said
and this is that they don't do Momo again because they know that.
Dr. Nyako,
no, hold on.
They don't do Momo.
This is an interesting. You're saying NDC people are no longer doing Momo because government will get the e-levy.
Yes.
That's
hold on.
They are no longer doing Momo, so that government will not get.
Yeah, most of them.
But you just said
most of them
when he said he was going to check from his phone, his Momo. Now you're saying
now he says most of them.
Let us see.
I'll give it to you. I do Momo. You can't be.
This is interesting.
You can't be managing. There's no way any MP can manage his constituency without doing Momo. You won't survive.
Don't do it.
So we do Momo. We are compelled to do Momo.
Show the example.
Oh, I'll show you to you. But I haven't finished. We are disrupting.
All right. So just wrap up in 30 seconds. I beg you.
This is my Momo. See the Momo payment.
I don't need to see. You can show. You can show it to your colleagues.
So
I think it's for
stop,
you.
Stop the Rosa argument that NDC people have stopped doing Momo. We still do Momo.
Right. Okay.
But the point I want to make is that it is also not correct that because e-levy delayed, that is why government is in crisis. Government came here in March to say the following things. And give me 1 minute to say the following things to us. He says, he addressed the country in March. He has this to say. The finance minister says, however, 3 things that we did not and could not predict hit us. Then he goes on to say that by April 2019, we had successfully completed that 4-year IMF program. We did so and more by achieving an annual average real GDP growth of 7% between 2017 and 2019 from a 3.4% in 2016. 2, maintaining a fiscal deficit below 5% of GDP for 3 consecutive years. 3, maintaining a positive primary balance for 3 consecutive years, which put our debt on a sustainable path. 4, lowering lending rates by over 10 percentage points. 5, restructuring the banking sector. All that.
Okay.
6,
I think your point is made.
Yes, because if you told the nation this in March that the economy is healthy, what did you? He was quoting
2017, 2019.
You came to tell the country this in March. That you are not in crisis.
I was quoting figures from 2020.
I am saying did you read your finance minister?
That's what he said.
Yes, and I'm saying the finance minister is telling
was strong.
Mr. Nyako, Dr. Nyako, please.
So
I'm saying that in March, the finance minister came to tell the nation this, that we are healthy because of all that.
He didn't say that.
What did he say?
He didn't say that. He said.
What did he say?
He said by 2019. We had increased.
Did you read
the
things? Did you read the things? It's 14 points. Dr. Nyako, go back and read this.
What I really understand it. He understands.
Yes, and I'm saying you are saying that the economy is not in crisis because you have achieved the following.
No, that's what he meant.
So what did he mean?
He said that in 2017,
even if the picture wasn't,
what did he mean?
Gentlemen, and let's
what did he mean?
He didn't say that.
Now you want to hold on. You want to explain what the finance minister clearly said? 14 points.
It is clear.
14 percentage points.
It is clear.
All right. So even if the picture wasn't so, it was clear that.
So but let me finish. I'm rebutting.
Yeah,
I'm telling him that his finance minister said in March that the economy is healthy.
He didn't say that.
Listed 14 points.
We do know.
Okay.
We do know that.
He said he won't go to IMF because we are healthy. Didn't he say that?
Yes, he did.
Then additionally,
because of what he had done.
No, he says the fundamentals are strong. We are robust. We'll go to IMF.
Shall we proceed with the conversation, or do we have to?
Dr. Nyaku,
do we have to turn your microphones off?
Dr. Nyaku,
please. Just hold it there.
Be calm this morning.
So the vice president tomorrow. The vice president.
No.
You've had enough.
No, I haven't.
The vice president tomorrow will also be sharing his thoughts on why we're going the way of the IMF. It would be interesting to find out what he has to say. But on the labor front,
Akakpo,
a number of institutions, labor unions have, unless you don't want to talk about the labor issues, a number of labor unions have been up in arms, and now we know as of today, the Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana, are also declaring an indefinite strike. We've heard from the Ghana Registered Midwives Association, we've heard from different groupings, the teacher unions. Yesterday, another meeting that ended in naught, zilch, zero. What is the way forward? I would like us to box in that conversation. I had an interaction earlier with one of the university lecturers, Dr. Kwame Asa-Asante, and he says government has not been proactive, that you've not done the right things, basically. I don't want to misquote him, but that you've sat down, waited for a festering problem or a festering sore to become gangrenous, and now you're trying to solve it. It becomes much worse of a problem. Let's put that side by side with the issue of that the NDC is raising of a suspicion that the Ghana card is going to be used to register for election 2024. How much truth is there in that, especially knowing that a lot of people have not been able to register for the Ghana card, people who put in the application a long time ago. My own mother still doesn't have her Ghana card through no fault of hers, and I know so many people like that. If that were to get to that point, what would happen? So these two issues, I'll start with you, Doc.
Yeah, so, Ben. Yeah.
So let's do about 3.5 minutes for each of you, and then we'll wrap the conversation.
Yeah, so the labor front is turbulent now as a result of the obvious hardships Ghanaians are going through. And for some of us, we feel the pain of the Ghanaians. I think all of us are, in one way or the other, are affected by the hikes in prices of goods and services. We all feel it. You know what I mean? No matter how much you earn, the impact is still there. It's true that some will bear the brunt more than others, but in one way or the other, we are all going through it. And I think that government also being responsive to the plight of the citizenry is also looking at how to mitigate the pains and the sufferings. Government has taken some steps in containing expenditure on her side. And in so doing, recently the Statistical Service reported that the 30% cut in KPIs is also affecting development in some areas, which is obvious. So I think that government should find out or see to addressing the pains. The concerns in terms of the need for the cost of living allowance, for me, the justified. The COLA is justified. But the times too, when government is in negotiations with IMF, for me, I will ask and plead with Labour to exercise some form of restraint.
But they say they've tightened their belts to the point where, their belts have torn.
Let us see to the end of the negotiations, okay? And I'm sure that after the negotiations, because you see, if you're on strike right now and something positive comes out of the negotiations to your benefit, what will have lost cannot be regained. So why don't you wait till this is done whilst negotiations are going on?
They say this is just another trick, that this is always the cycle. Cease your strike so that we can have negotiations, and then we're back to zero. And they're saying this time they will not do that.
I've established the need for something to be done, and I've been pushing for it. But in these times when government, so the point is that, you see, if government decides to give something now, can government do it right now? That is
Because they are on strike?
Concern. No, I mean, because of the nature of the economy, and we're going for support. And I'm saying that the negotiations, when they are done, I'm sure government will meet their needs. And we are pleading with government to do something to suit the pains and sufferings of all of us. Okay. So for me, it is a justified demand, but let's look at the approach within the context of the times right now.
So are you in support of their going back to post so they can continue?
That has been my place.
All right, thank you.
You know what I mean?
Let's do the Ghana card.
So for me, it will be all right.
It will be
all right to deny.
It will be okay.
It will be unright. It will be
unright. Okay, wrong.
To deny people opportunity to exercise their legitimate obligation in terms of franchise when the fault is from the system. I'm making this point because if people don't have it, and it's not through no fault of theirs, and as a result of that, if it's even true that the Ghana card will be the sole requisite for exercising your franchise, then I think that it will be unfair to such persons. So we need to get things right. If we are going to use the Ghana card, then it means that all efforts must be made to ensure that, if not all, majority of Ghanaians who are willing and prepared to have the card have it.
Because there's a backlog of people who have registered, gone through all the processes,
everybody,
a year on, 6 months on,
yes,
and all of that still don't have the
yeah,
card.
so I mean,
right.
I think this has to be done before.
Roxanne, you have the rest of the time. The rest of the time is yours in 3.5 minutes, and we're gone.
Thank you. On the labor front, the government is suffering what we call crisis of integrity. Integrity because the labor unions are disappointed in the government for broken promises. And so when government gives them assurances now, they don't want to rely on it. And so that's where we are. Now, in respect of the other matter, I think Madame Jean Mensah has come across as a crisis-oriented, crisis-mongering person.
Crisis-mongering person?
Yes. You always want to monger crisis. You came to Parliament just last year and before 2020 elections to say that after the 2020 voters, biometric voters register, you need a new voters register. All you'll be doing will be updating. And indeed, the CI presently in force empowers you to do that. You actually assured Parliament that registration, voter registration will no longer be done on static basis. It will be done on rolling basis. So as and when people attain the age of 18, they can just walk into your office, get registered. And not only when there's due time for a public election to be held. Then you rush to Parliament with a proposed CI. In that CI, you seek to jettison the entire tenor of Article 42 of our Constitution. What she's saying by this new proposed CI is that if you are not a possessor of Ghana card, you cannot be registered as a Ghanaian. And let me remind you what Article 42 of the Constitution says. With your permission, let me read. It says every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. She cannot purport to use Ghana card to deny the right and entitlement of any person being registered. I just want to make sure she understands this provision.
But we use voter ID card. If we don't have voter ID
Please.
card, can you...
She says that even when you are in possession of the voter ID card she herself relied on recently, you cannot be entitled to be registered unless you are in possession of Ghana card. That is where the crisis is emanating from.
And you're the minority, you're speaking to those issues today at your party headquarters.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So she should be careful. she should be very, very careful.
But if you could indulge me, just 1 second.
I will not indulge you. I have indulged you enough. No, we are not friends. You like to heckle me. Now,
wrap up.
Yes. So,
15 seconds.
So Madame Jean Mensa should simply take that instrument that she's brought back and maybe come back with an amendment to an existing one, which could be in addition to the existing voters register.
Okay.
Somebody could use a Ghana card.
Okay.
Above all this, the introduction of the exemptions bill doesn't help government to earn revenue. 2, the introduction of a property rate tax doesn't help them. Because you see, it is the assemblies who have the power under the Local Governance Act, Act 936, to enter into an agreement. So it is the assemblies that must be doing the property rate collection. So
the point, I think, is based.
And they also
as far as the minority is concerned,
government,
you are totally not in support of
yes,
it.
This government introduced what we call a capping policy. They brought a law to cap IGF of entities and assemblies. The monies they are getting, they are bringing it back to the center.
I think now you
are complaining about
into a different territory. But thank you. We don't have any more time. I mean, that is. They can't always be rebuttals, unfortunately. Please indulge.
I agree with you.
Please indulge.
I agree with you.
Dr. Kingsley Nyanko is Member of Parliament for Kwadaso. He joined the conversation. We have Roxanne Nelson Dafiamako, Member of Parliament for South Dine, also joining the conversation. Earlier, when we were talking about the Office of the Special Prosecutor, we also had lawyer Bobby Banton. On that note, we wrap on this leg of the discussion. Expect a lot more coming your way on the AM show. Do stay. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I had to go. They had been prompting me.
Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. I'm Bernice Abubeidulan. So just going by, my colleague Benjamin Akakpo was engaging some parliamentarians on some pertinent issues. Talking about pertinent issues, there's one that is still lingering. We don't see a solution in sight, and it has to do with the strike by teachers and the negotiations between the teacher unions and government. The latest we know on that is that the government refused to continue negotiations while the teachers were on strike and insisted that they call off the strike for negotiations to continue. We heard from NAGRAT's president, Angel Kabonu, who says that he's going back to discuss with his leadership and members to decide what the next move will be. But in the midst of all this, we know that those who are suffering are the students, some of who are preparing to take their final exams. This morning, we continue our discussions with labor expert Austin Game. Mr. Game, thank you so much for your time once again here on the AM show. So it's almost like a stalemate. We don't know where we go from here. Where do you see this particular case traveling into? Government is saying we won't continue our negotiations with you if you don't call off the strike, and we're yet to receive a response from the teacher unions on what their decision will be.
Well, thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
I think that somebody will have to give up something. Otherwise, the stalemate may continue. But let me place it in context for you. To be honest with you, but for professional reasons, I may not want to talk about this, but we all need to know how the dimensions are. That is why I'm going to speak. The reality is that this is not a collective bargaining or collective agreement-based issue. Collective agreement is at the enterprise level, where union at the enterprise level and their employer, in this case government, represented by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, would have been negotiating. If it's for implementation of the agreement, then again back to either Ministry of Education or Ghana Education Service and so forth and so on. That's the base. But this has transcended that kind of arrangement. This is something that is placed under Section 113, subsection C, not a collective bargaining process. This is a matter of social and economic importance, which is at the national tripartite level, which is not held by just one local union. It has to, that's why organized labor and Secretary General of the TUC highlighted this during the May Day celebration, as I'm sure you are aware of. So this should have been a tripartite arrangement on a proactive approach. But that notwithstanding, they all went away from the norm, and now the employer government is quoting Section 127, 3 and 4, and Section 161. All that has to do with when negotiation at collective bargaining level is taking place. This is at a national level where something which is not supposed to be part of a normal agreement, COLA, cost of living allowance, has nothing to do with collective agreement at all. It has all to do with when there appears to be some level of crisis at the national level of either extreme food shortage, inflation galloping, there is interest rate creating problem, indebtedness of the country still, and everybody appears to be in danger. And the cost of living having been eroded massively, they would want some level of restoration. And that is done at the national level and not at the local level. So there can be some people who are disenchanted, who are troubled. It need not be a trade union. It can be any interest group that may want to raise something at the national level. You don't need to be told that when you are on strike, we can't talk to you. So the flexibility in industrial relations, which is created under the law, should have been explored so that both parties would have brainstormed yesterday. They missed the opportunity to brainstorm regardless of the circumstance they find themselves in. In the course of the brainstorming and generation of various options, they could have made an appeal, like some of us have already done, to the teachers and ask them, why don't you go back to work as we continue exploring the opportunities that are open to us? Unfortunately, they missed the way. It's not collective bargaining. It's not a enterprise-based matter. So maybe they should not have bothered themselves too much with that. They should have facilitated the process and they would have gotten a way out. Even zero, not paying anything, not even paying anything at all, is part of the conversation. So why do you have to worry yourself?
So, Mr. Game,
it has happened before.
Even if it was what you're prescribing and government could have taken that, that route and say, either call off the strike or we won't enter a conversation with you. Considering the impact this strike will have on students, especially those who are preparing to take their final exams, would you say the posturing of government shows that they really want to solve this problem, or there's an end in sight to this problem?
Well, they are confronted with a myriad of problems, including IMF hanging on their necks. So the possibility of all those influences cannot be ruled out. But having said so, this is not a time for fault-finding. This is a time for national crusade to helping in resolving this matter. So my humble appeal is for everybody to drop the deep-seated perceptions and drop the postures, including any ego if it exists, any bluff if it exists. Everybody should drop it, and if they operate in the zone, the red zone of we will fight our way out, we will walk out, we will not talk to you, at the end of the day, everybody will be the loser. We have to move away from that deep-seated perception and move to the green zone, where we will release information and be sure that it's being done honestly. Everybody should relax. And in the midst of relaxation, obviously, somebody must drop a strike. If I were to be facilitating such a meeting, It's not going to be, I'm the chairman of the meeting, you have to listen to me. No, this is not about United Nations having a meeting and somebody in America or Russia can veto it. No, this is about facilitating a meeting, a process in arriving at a solution that will satisfy the psyche of the whole nation. It's not about even students. It's not even about teachers. It's not even about government. It's about Ghana. That is what it is.
Mr. Game, I'll have you hold on now and bring in Mr. Bernard J., who is the General Secretary of the Public Services Workers Union. We know that they are threatening a strike. They haven't gone on strike yet. Hello, Mr. AJ. Thank you so much for joining the program. So we've heard what happened between the teachers and the representatives of government in that meeting. We also know that there was supposed to be a meeting between the Public Service Workers Union and government. Are you able to give us an update on your negotiation with government over the cost of living allowance?
Thank you very much, and my greetings to all your listeners. And I salute Mr. Game, and he couldn't have said it any better. We were at the meeting as well yesterday. It was not a separate meeting. It was a meeting called for all organized labor groups, especially those of us in the public sector who have requested for COLA. So we were all there at the meeting for this engagement. And we were very disappointed by the approach of the government team. And we felt that they wanted to play a divide and rule tactics. That is one. Secondly, we think they were not prepared as well for the meeting. And we thought that they got it wrong by the posture that they put up yesterday. We were of the view that it was an opportunity to have discuss the issues and come to some understandings that could even prevent strikes that are in the offing, including my union's decision and position that we have taken. So we were all at the meeting yesterday, and we were quite disappointed.
So what's the next move for you then? Because if what government is saying is anything to go by, unless the teachers call up the strike, then it means that the negotiations across the board with organized labor won't happen.
Well, that's a decision for government to make, and I hope that they will get the right people to advise them properly. Mr. Osingame has rightly stated the position that we hold, that look, this is not the time for you to be raising the issues you are raising about somebody is on strike and therefore you cannot negotiate with him. I mean, no, we are not in normal times. So we thought that the opportunity was missed. Our members have taken decisions. My structures met last Friday. They have taken a decision that by the 18th, if nothing is done, we will embark on our strike. Other public sector unions, and that is my fear. The longer this takes, the more unions that are going to go on strike. And his government is going to say that once you are all on strike, I'm not going to sit down with you. Then how do we resolve the problem?
Right, Mr. J, so let me rephrase my question.
We wish that as soon as practicable, government will call us back so that we can find a solution to this, and which will not require us also then to embark on our strike on the 19th. That would be our wish. Yeah.
What I want to know is this. You were at that meeting yesterday. Government asked the teacher unions to go back to the classrooms so that negotiations could continue. Now, what were you told at that meeting? Were you told that you were going to be engaged separately pending the decision by the teacher unions, or were you told that until the teachers rescind their decision, there will be no engagement across the board with the other labor unions?
Right. So what we were told was that if the teacher unions will not call off their strike, then they could not be part of the meeting.
Okay.
But my sister, if there's a matter that concerns you and me, and we go to talk about the matter, and I appear there and I'm told that the one to deal with the matter, has an issue with you, so doesn't want you to be there, but wants to engage me alone. Why should I agree? Why should I agree? That's the divide and rule tactics we are talking about. If they had an issue they wanted to settle with the teachers, why couldn't they have met the teachers the previous day?
Mr. J, but you're all asking for the same thing. Sorry for my interjection. You're all asking for the same thing. You all want 20% of your salaries as cost of living allowance. So if government says that we won't engage the teachers because they're striking, but we will engage the other unions or we will engage TUC, why is there such a problem with that?
So if you agree on something with me, are you going to apply that to the teachers as well? Or when the teachers call off the strike and they come back and you engage them separately, would you give them something different from what you are going to give me? That's the question we are asking. If you are not going to give them anything different, so why can't they be part so that their voices are also heard? So that when we agree on something, it covers everybody. That's all we are saying. So we should look at it carefully. We think the approach was wrong. If they continue like that, we are going to have a bigger problem. Let's resolve this so that we also do not go on the strike. Because members have spoken, and it's a difficult situation. We need to be tactful. We need to be innovative. And in these labor relations, it's not always the law. There are times we resolve issues using informal and unconventional ways, even before we come and sit at the table. So what is going on? Who is advising government? This is unacceptable. We are ready to engage them, but these little things that they are bringing in the way is going to make it difficult for all of us. Don't divide the labor front. We are one, and you invited us all to talk about it. Once you are not going to give me a different thing and give a different thing to the teacher unions, why should I agree that they should not be part of the discussion? No.
Well, Mr. J, so what happens now? Are you going to continue engagement with government, hoping to get a response from the teacher unions, or is it a no deal for you? You're not going to engage them if the teacher unions aren't present?
Well, what government team has made us to understand that they have an issue with teacher unions because they are on strike. They put a request before them. We leave that for them how they want to handle it. For us, our members have also taken their decision. We are ready to engage. If they want to engage us, and that is what we would prefer as organized labor, because this matter affects all of us. Yesterday, we had an earlier meeting before this main meeting. And all organized labor, we have agreed that we'll handle this together. So we are united on this. So we will wait. If government calls us back, we will come and sit and talk about it. But we are coming as organized labor. And that is it, because the matter affects all of us. So why deal with all of us, and let's bring a conclusion to the matter. And can you imagine, my sister, if we had even talked, this thing has not come up, and we had even talked yesterday and had an agreement, I mean, they will go and call off the strike anyway. That is the issue. But if we don't agree on anything, and it's still left like this, and we are going back and forth, they should call off the strike. They shouldn't call off the strike. We support them. Oh, these people say we don't agree. And it gets to 19. My union will start a strike as well. Then you say, okay, PSW, you're also on strike. We won't deal with you. Then before we realize, cluster also goes. Before we realize, health services also goes. I don't think that is what we want. So let's revise our note the way we used to do in previous times, where sometimes we meet even informally to have some discussions and resolve these things very well. Consultations here and there. Let's do that.
Well, thank you for your time this morning. Bernard J is General Secretary of the Public Service Workers Union. Let's go back to Mr. Game. So, Mr. Game, at this point, as an expert and a consultant, what would you prescribe? The government continues its engagement without the teacher unions, or it finds a way to include them in the engagements?
Appreciate the difficulty that government finds itself as an employer, as well as the unions also. So I empathize with all of them. To learn lessons. This is not the first time this has happened in Ghana before. It happened in 1984. It happened in 2013, 14, cumulatively on the 2015. The way the previous government handled it expertly is there. Any good thing from a previous government can be carried forward. Any bad thing, leave it behind. And it was extensive consultation at home. It ended in Senchi, it ended in Takrady, and everybody was satisfied. The demand was very, very, very little. There was no strike, and that was it. So why don't you pick it? They tried to do something recently at Peru, but it was not comprehensive enough. That is why we are where we are. So it's not about NDC, MPP, CPP, something. It's Ghana that is at stake. So if we are something million of people, they can consult. And if they consult, they will get appropriate answer and go and handle the matter differently from the way they handled it yesterday. Yesterday, I was very much disappointed, that it ended that way, because our children are in trouble. I've been following them on your networks, and I'm very sick about it.
Finally, Mr. Game, the National Labour Commission wrote to the Minister for Employment, the Minister of Education, the Director General of the Ghana Education Service on the 4th of July, asking them to engage the teacher unions and send a report based on their negotiations in 7 days. If we take out Monday, which was a holiday, today will be day 7. At this point, that ultimatum has been reached. And we know that there's been no proper agreement or negotiation between the teacher unions and government. What should the National Labour Commission be doing now?
Well, they can make some intervention, but this is not a collective agreement-based issue. This is a national situation where they come under a national tripartite body, where they come under coordinated body like organized labor. You cannot separate them, as was said properly by Mr. J. And that's why the people from government side that went did not only include or made up of employment and labor relations. Even National Security Minister participated, from what we read. So clearly, this is not even a National Labour Commission issue per se, but they have a role they can play by way of prompting them to do what they are supposed to do. So I urge them to continue to urge the parties to go to the national tripartite meeting and drop the posture they all have and the perceptions hanging around their necks, and go and get seated and have a good conversation about the issue, and not go and debate and argue. This is not quiz masters program where somebody will lose and somebody will win. Both parties must gain, and that's Ghana.
In Austin Game is a labor consultant, and we've been talking about the negotiations between government and labor, and the decision by government representatives not to engage teacher unions until they call off their strike. You're watching the AM show this morning. We've been bringing you a lot of interesting discussions, and we'll be back shortly to take your comments on what matters to you. But coming up shortly, we'll be having a conversation on the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. Hello Ghana, happy moment is here. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water from Akakpo Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water and text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780# option 2. *780# option 2 and follow the prompts on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks and more instantly. Don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform and this advert is FDA approved. Remember, terms and conditions apply. Do stay, we'll bring you more shortly. It's a minute to 9:30. You're still watching the AM show. It's now time to talk about the EcoBank Journeys Habitat Fair because it's coming up again. And this year we are focusing on where you live. Where you live matters. Now this fair, this particular edition will be launched on Thursday, the 14th of July at the EcoBank head office. To help us get more information on this, my colleague, Senior Sales Executive at the Multimedia Group, Ernest Akakpo, joins us. Hello, Ernest. Good to have you here. So, why this particular theme this year, where you live matters?
Okay, so this year is going to be the 13th edition of the EcoBank Journeys Habitat Fair. Last year, we started with homeownership, to build or to buy. So we are building upon what we started last year. And this year, we are talking about where you live matters. Now, it's important that in choosing a home, you get to look at the location because the location will be central to all the decisions that you'll be taking. So in terms of proximity to work, to school for your kids, to other social amenities, you'll be looking at the road, potable water and all of that. Even the security, which is much more important. So we are looking at where you live matters. So as you make that decision to own a home, you need to take into consideration all of this. And that is what has informed the decision that we are using for this year's theme.
Great. So we know we usually have what we call the mini clinics before the main fair. Is it the same nature this year's edition is going to take?
Yeah, we are going to have the same nature for this 13th edition. The only missing factor here will be the Junction Mall. So in the past, we do 3 clinics. We start with Achimota Mall, then we go to West Hills Mall, then finally we do the Junction Mall. But this year, due to the road construction around the Junction Mall, we think it will not be appropriate because of the congestion and the difficulties, the challenges that it will come with. So we are doing only the Achimota Mall and the West Hills Mall. In the past, we do Saturday, Sunday, but because we'll be missing the Junction Mall, we are doing 3 days each for the Achimota Mall and the West Hills Mall, just to make room for the Junction Mall that will be missing. So the first clinic will be from the 22nd to the 24th of July. At the Achimota Mall. Then we'll follow on the 7th from the 5th to the 7th of August at West Hills Mall. Then the main event will be the 24th to the 28th of August. That's when we'll climax everything for this year's event.
I've been to the Habitat Fair before. I know the kind of exhibitors that come. It's not only the building, but also providing financing for the building, home loans, mortgages and all. But if someone is watching us for the first time and thinking, oh, maybe this is just about building and construction and people into such, coming to showcase what they have, just give us a general sense of the kind of exhibitors you have and the benefits of attending the Journeys Habitat Fair.
Okay, so to look at the portfolio of clients that we look at the housing value chain. So we are looking from acquisition of the land all the way to building, the roofing. We are looking at home furnishing. We are looking at mortgages, like you rightly said. EcoBank will be there to sort out with those issues. We're also looking at the insurance space as well, because once you put in that investment to acquire a home, it's only important that you insure it. So we are looking at everything to do with housing, from roofing to painting to insurance.
Interior decor.
Everything.
Everything is sorted.
Everything you can think about for the house. For our mothers, you are looking at the kitchen, everything to do with the house. That's what you are looking at this year's event.
Right. I'm sure there's somebody who's watching and say, oh, I could actually be a part of this. I could be an exhibitor. Is it too late? How do they join?
It's never too late to be an exhibitor or a sponsor. So if you want to be part of it, and we encourage all our viewers or potential clients to be part of this event, you can call us on 0546 908179, if I may repeat.
Definitely.
You can call us on 0546 908179. And once you call us, we are willing and glad to speak to you, to sign you on board and to be part of this 13th edition.
Okay, so a special request. Can you mention the number again? And this time, it's quite slow. Okay, sure. So the number to call is 0546 908179. 0546 908179. So you call us, we have that conversation with you, then we get to sign you on board to be part of this year's event. Any special deals this time?
Oh, there are special deals. We are just waiting for your call so that at least we sign you on board. But there are special deals. Okay. And tomorrow we are launching the event at EcoBank's head office. So once we launch the event, then it means it's officially open for business. Okay. So tomorrow at 11 a.m. it's going to be live on television, Joy News Television. So we encourage everyone who has time to pass through at EcoBank's head office. By 10:30 you are seated, 11 the event starts, then by 12 we are done. So we can at least launch the event and have a successful event in the month of August.
I like the theme so much, especially because of this particular season we are in. There are a lot of people who've gone to build in places which were not flood prone. They've become flood prone. People are dealing with floods. Do we have any exhibitors, any plans to discuss such issues and, you know, help people who are within areas that suffer some of these to, you know, have solutions to their problem?
Yeah, from a year or two ago, we introduced the webinars that we do with the mini clinics and the main event. So on Saturday and Sundays throughout the exhibition, we spend an hour looking at a topic and discussing. Last year, we spoke about financing for a home in terms of mortgages. It wouldn't be bad, a suggestion, we having to discuss flooding as one of the topics during our webinars, and let's say security is also part of the topic. So the team will look at it, and it shouldn't be surprising if you have to discuss that. At least we are open to suggestions. You're welcome, Dennis.
Thank you so much, Ernest. Ernest Ekufu is a senior sales executive here at the Multimedia Group, giving us details of this year's edition of the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. You want to pass through, trust me, you will be glad when you do, because where you live matters, and that's our focus this year. Stay here. Benjamin will join me shortly. We will take your comments and your phone calls on the issues that we've been discussing today. Do stay. Guess who's back? Benjamin.
We're back.
Akakpo.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's good to be back with you. And
oh yeah, interesting conversation. Having Austin Game back, and you know the Labour Front. You know we really have to deal with these issues.
We do.
After maybe where it's headed,
we do.
We really need to remedy this because students affected, so many other people affected. And look at the most recent one, the senior staff of the universities of Ghana. You know, and they are starting today. So something really must.
You see, for me, the students, you know, we shouldn't forget that there are those who are preparing to take the final exam. They are having to deal with food shortage. We've seen, I've cited a letter from the Eastern Region CHAS.
Yeah.
First, it was the Upper West Region. Now it's the Eastern Region CHAS. And this time, they go beyond the food shortage.
Yeah.
But
they're talking about the same issues plus more.
About the free senior high school policy and the challenges they are facing. Yesterday, we were told that the food supplies were supposed to be received in the schools. That didn't happen. We had the PRO of the Ministry of Education speak. He said, well, the supplies, they have them, they've sent them out. We don't know when they're
you know, they're really not telling us. One thing they're not telling us is why we're facing all of these. There's a bit of hedging around the why of it.
Because the suppliers are owed. So the finance ministry should be telling us now why the suppliers are owed. Some of them as far back as September last year. So that's the
in the midst of all of these, and we shall continue our conversation here. If you leave us, we'll go. But we'll rope you in so that you can start calling.
We actually have a caller from Cape Coast.
Oh, we have one
Joel,
already.
But before I pick Joel, let me just lay down the rules a bit. When you call us, please mute your television set. Just mute the television set so we don't have any feedback and delays. Joel joins us from Cape Coast. Hello, Joel. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm a teacher in Cape Coast, one of the senior high schools. And in fact, what happened yesterday was unfortunate. We, the teachers, we are actually not happy that we are at home because we have a scheme of work which we were expecting to follow. But now everything has been come to a standstill. And you're not happy. As I speak to you right now, I'm just lying down watching you since morning. So the government should please do something. So what happened yesterday, actually, we're not happy. We're just assuring the students that let's hope that something good will come out of it and will come back. And you can see the frustration on the children's face.
Joel, a quick one. So you keep alluding to yesterday and you were not happy. What about what happened yesterday did not make you happy? Is it...
No, we were expecting that the government would have brought something on the table.
Okay.
So that at least our leaders can come back to call us back to the classroom. But in the case, it appears like they didn't want them in the meeting. No, and you can see that now all of us, we are aware. Because it has come to a point that we didn't trust our teachers, our leaders again. We didn't trust our leaders. And they want to prove to us that they can be trusted. You see.
And so Joel, just a quick one. We were told by your leadership that they were going to get back to you to find out what the next move will be, because government says, call off the strike, then we can continue negotiations. Have your leaders reached out to you?
No, not at all, not at all.
Okay.
What they are telling us is that we are still on strike.
Okay.
And we are really standing by them.
All right.
Even parents are supporting this strike. I'm telling you.
All right. Joel, thank you so much.
Some parents are saying that we demand it. We should push on.
Thank you so much for calling us. We really appreciate your thoughts. Let's now go to Ashomang, where Auntie Maggie joins us from. Auntie Maggie, good morning. Let's hear you.
Hello.
Hello, Auntie Maggie. Please, let's hear your contribution.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Auntie Maggie.
Hello.
Let's hear you. You're live on Joy News.
Morning. Please, my voice is... Are you hearing me?
Auntie Maggie, we can hear you. Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
Okay. So what is the government telling us, we parents who have our wants in it? What are they telling us? So,
please go ahead. Let's hear you, ma'am. Make your contribution.
We can hear you, so don't worry. Don't wait for us to. It's not going to be interactive. Just go ahead with your point. All right. It appears we've lost her.
Let me just.
I think she's a first-time caller. I've not had her on this, so sometimes yeah.
So let me just say this again, please. Mute your television set. Reduce the volume to the barest minimum so that you hear us over the phone. If you wait for the television, there will be a delay and we'll have issues.
And it will distract you. That's the point.
So let's hear Eric from Takrady. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. How are you, madam?
We are doing well. Thanks for asking.
If care is not taken, this strike thing is going to be a national something because as we speak, you know that the MMDC who were appointed some 9 months ago have not been paid.
That's interesting.
So they are all in support of this strike thing. The government should be up and doing that. The thing is, the truth must be told to the citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
But that's an interesting point. Bringing in MMDCEs, that's a different twist of the conversation, at least.
But at least he's trying to tell you how this
how broad across. This is.
Redwan joins us from Tamale. Good morning, Redwan. Let's hear you, please.
Hello. Good morning.
Please go ahead, Ridwan. Good morning.
Yes, I also want to make a contribution to the program. As the first caller said earlier on, yes, I'm also a teacher. And right now, we're just at home, hoping that something meaningful will come from the negotiation between our union leaders and government. If you look at the whole situation, government shot itself in the foot and brought us to this point. Why do I say so? If you look at the attitude of this government, not long ago, just look at the attitude of our presidents, our ministers, and all those people in power. Just some few months ago, our president was flying in a luxury jet, passing on us. And some few months down the line, you are telling us that the country is so broke, we should listen with you, and we should what else? Tell me, what belt have you tightened as a president? How responsible has the political been in managing the affairs of this country? We are not asking for much. It is evident that everything in the country has gone up. It is evident. They themselves have acknowledged it. So asking me to keep managing with the meat salaries have refused to increase for a very long time, because the increment they gave us last year, that 7%, wasn't an increment at all. Because if you look at, if you match it with the amount of increment in goods and services, you will realize that we are worse off.
Right, Redwan. Thank you so much for your contribution. We'll have to pick other callers now. Abiola is calling us from Navrungo. Good morning, Abiola. Please.
Good morning, please.
Let's hear you. Go straight to the point.
Yeah. Please, madam, I want to find out whether actually, from where you put it, whether there's money in Ghana or there's no money. We can actually see, we the teachers, we can see there's money. Everybody, we can see from the politicians, from Nanado to his ministers, to all the people ruling us, there's money in Ghana. And we are suffering. Look at the cathedral. They are building cathedrals everywhere. You are buying past questions for students. Things you are not supposed to do, they are doing them. So when we ask for a letter, why are they complaining? We should be hungry and be complaining and be placing them. We cannot be clapping hands for them. We are dying. They are doing as if they are not living in Ghana with us. Look, the problem here, things are really hot. Even look, a 10 petrol is not up to the 5-star container. And we cannot go to work. We are dying slowly. We are dying. Please talk to them for us. There's money. We have every belief that there's money because we can see the money in there. They are using the money and we can see the money. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abiola. Benjamin, you couldn't help but laugh.
Apologies, it cracked me up at the question.
I understand.
Is there money or is there no money?
See, it goes back to what the caller before Abiola, that was Ridwan from Tamale, said. That when you say there is no money, it must be evident in your actions and decisions as a government. So, you say there's no money, but we're not seeing that applying to you. So it's as though there's money, but it's being used for yourself.
Right.
So that's the concern. But we have another caller from Tamale. Hello, Bismarck. Let's make this snappy so we can take our last caller from Hohoi. Bismarck, you're joining us from Tamale. Let's hear you, please. Hello, Bismarck. Hello, Bismarck.
All right, so I know Bismarck can hear us. You're likely watching us on your TV.
Because
just go ahead. Just go ahead with your point. If you can hear me, Bismarck, go ahead.
Okay, my point is, hello, it's not Bismarck. Hello?
Hello, is this Arnold from Hohoi?
No, Bismarck is still on the line. Bismarck, just go ahead. Go ahead. If you hear me, go ahead.
It's not Bismarck.
He's saying he's not Bismarck.
Right.
Is this Arnold from Hohoi? Well, sorry, we'd have to cut the call. Once again, please, when you call us, mute your television set or else you'd experience this. There will be a delay. You won't respond on time and then it will be dragging the program. So when you call us, listen to us over the telephone and mute your television set. If you're somebody who wants to go and watch yourself back again and how you did in your contribution, you can get onto our Facebook page.
You can't even watch yourself. You can just
You can hear yourself, sorry.
but the point is...
And listen, I get the feeling that people like to hear how they sound on TV. So sometimes they want to keep the TV on and it causes a lot of problems. So you get onto our Facebook page package and you can watch yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, hear yourself.
It's
all right. Sorry.
Sometimes I feel bad when we miss out on, because these are.
Yeah.
This is why we do the segment, so that you can actually talk. You know, give vent to whatever is on you. So when we miss doing that, maybe my suggestion would be, pick your phone. If your TV is in, let's say, a space like this, move quite a distance into your hallway or something, or get outside. Just make the call. When you're done, you can always check yourself out, like Bernie said on.
Okay.
Fortunately, we have a final caller.
Yeah, we do have a final caller. Bashiru is joining us from Accra. Hello, Bashiru. Let's hear you, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity on this platform to say something. I want to ask a few questions. And I like the two of you. They want to answer me. Or don't answer, or let the public hear me. Let the politicians answer me. I want to know if they get access to us, will their wives divorce them, their husbands divorce them? Or if they do the right thing, will they die?
Bashiru, 2 questions, that's it. All right. So Bashiru is asking a question if politicians will die if they do the right thing, or their wives will divorce them, or their spouses will divorce them. That's not a question for us to answer. I think it's for the politicians to answer. So we leave that to them to answer. Benjamin, why do you have that look on your face?
I'm not a politician.
You're so mischievous. Anyway, now a person who is not required to register for VAT may voluntarily apply to be registered. A voluntary applicant shall be registered as a taxable person where the Commissioner General is satisfied that the person has a fixed place of abode or business, or reasonably believes that the person keeps proper accounting records related to any business activity carried on by that person, and the person submit regular and reliable tax returns, or reasonably believes that the person is fit and proper to be registered. And that's how you can apply to be registered voluntarily on the VAT. And on that note, we end this edition of the AM show. Benjamin still has that look
on that voluntary note, you know, we voluntarily cede our places to the Joy News Desk crew. They'll be bringing you a lot when it comes to news, what's trending.
Yeah.
And very sad development.
Yeah, sad.
It's interesting both of us,
yes,
coincidentally.
thought about it
MCE.
at the same time. Yeah.
Is it Bibiani?
Bibiani, so
there's a third.
Bekwai Municipal Assembly. The MC unfortunately lost his life after he was involved in an accident on the Accra-Kumasi Highway. Really sad development.
I think his driver also affected. May their souls rest in peace.
The driver also passed? I heard the driver was in critical condition as of last night.
I do not know, but whatever has happened, I mean, whoever has been affected, our condolences.
Yeah, our condolences. Really sad development. But once again, we need to stay safe on our roads. Unfortunately, you cannot tell whether you'd be affected or not. You know, sometimes people think that, oh, well, I don't do public transportation. I sit in my private vehicle. But you can never tell.
You're never safe. Like the Ghanaian Times says, 1,300 killed in road crashes from January to June this year. So, hey, let's all stay safe. But on that note, we hang our boots for now, and Joy News Desk is up next. Have a great day.
Just stay safe.